The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is Matt Seidel, and you're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be previewing the Best of Super Junior and World Tag League Finals and the Super J Cup, answering your questions and covering all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on that donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, it is the 3-year anniversary of Keeping It Strong Style.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, the young boy Joshua Smith and his co-host, Jeremy Donovan. We appreciate you supporting us through the years. 3 years of anniversary. It's a big deal. That's my ASMR voice.
You didn't know you guys were getting the ASMR version of Keeping a Strong Style this week.
Welcome. Yeah, man, 3 years.
3 years. This is episode 158. Man.
I would like to say that right now, this moment in time, this is absolutely, undoubtedly the longest both of our hair has ever been while we've been recording this show.
It is, yeah.
Oh my man. God. Yeah, man, 3 years. We've done like retrospectives in the past. I don't necessarily feel like doing the whole retrospective thing necessarily, but thank you guys who are returning listeners who've been with us all the way. Thank you for new listeners who are jumping on now. And don't believe the naysayers. New Japan's not dead.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. Thank you guys for the support. Everybody on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, everybody that's downloading, streaming, people who might be, finding ways to steal the audio, even though it's free. We thank you for listening and supporting Keeping the Strong Style over the years.
And it's not hard to support it because you are listening to the ace of podcasts.
Yes.
Going strong, 3 years.
The best New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast in the world.
Yeah. You don't got to like it, but you better learn to live with it.
The longest running weekly episodic New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast.
Yeah. All I can say is this episode is going to be huge. Look at it.
Well, before we continue on, last week we told the listeners about your showcase match that you were having at the Side Dojo. And we had some questions. Some listeners were kind of curious of what was going down. Of course, we got a question here from Muzza. He said, did Jeremy have to bring out the garrote wire for Young Boy's match? Was there a fuck finish? And did Young Boy do a Boston Crab?
Oh, my gosh. So, Jeremy, tell us.
So I did not bring the garrote wire. I thought about it, but I didn't. We were gonna be behind a wall. I didn't think I had time to make the run in. So yeah, there was no garrote wire.
Yeah, we kept y'all behind a wall like it was the Capitol Wrestling Center.
Seriously. also have to bang on the plexiglass.
Did you guys do that?
No.
You guys should have. That's not a bad idea. I wonder how Matt would have
Yeah, I didn't know if Matt would have been cool with that or not.
I'm gonna ask him. That kind of sounds like I don't know. It might be cool.
But there was no Boston Crab from the young boy. But
listen, what I will say is that there was an open opportunity for me to get and apply the Boston Crab, but I had just recently been dropped in my head. I was discombobulated. The moment just, overwhelmed me, and I kind of forgot the game plan, much to my detriment.
But yeah, young boy, he opened up the show, hot opener on this side dojo showcase, and gotta say, man, it was some good stuff.
Thanks, man. I try. Working hard.
Yeah, man, putting that train to work against Mr. Entertainment, Xander Creed.
Yes.
So
I didn't find him to be that entertaining personally.
Yeah, there was nothing much entertaining about that gentleman.
I found it to be very painful. It was not fun or entertaining for me.
And we had a question from EMJ Does PR. He said, "Did you do the job?" Just joking, congrats. But yeah, you unfortunately, you got caught in the submission hole there, and
what are you talking about?
You had to do the JLB that night. That's unfortunate.
What are you talking about? That was an exhibition. That was not an official sanctioned match at all. My record is 0-0 currently.
I know. Rich was setting up the cage match profile for you.
That's not official. I'll have to dispute that. If he puts that up on cage match, there's going to be a dispute. That was not an official sanctioned match. I'm still undefeated in the sport of professional wrestling currently.
Yeah, so that's...
Don't you forget about it.
That was like Kenny and Mox one.
Well, yeah. Kenny just beat Mox in their first match. Same thing with me.
Oh, man. But yeah, the Side Dojo Showcase, fun little show. It was good to be out at a somewhat local indie, not really show, but show.
Bro, you guys got the hookup. It was a secret show in a secret warehouse. Nobody knew about it. Not advertised. Invitation only. I mean, I took care of you guys. We rolled out the carpet. It wasn't a big carpet, but it was that little carpet right there where you guys were standing. And yeah.
Started getting some of our new chants over. We're doing some AAA chants now. Peligro, peligro, brutal. So that's the new gimmick now for us going forward for wrestling shows, dropping in the AAA chants.
You saw me hit that Rainmaker though, right?
Yeah, you did. You got wrist control. Hit that short arm lariat, that Rainmaker for a near fall.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered because it was an exhibition.
Right.
But
had you had won, would have it counted on the record?
No, I'm a man of my word. It was a non-sanctioned match. It was an exhibition. God.
Last question here from Dom Homie 101. He says, if the young boy trained to be a pro wrestler, when will we see Jeremy Donovan start in his in-ring training? Because we need to see a team kiss to unify both the IWGP Junior and IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. LOL.
I mean, I think Jeremy could definitely train if he wanted to.
I could. I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to dust off the wrestling shoes and get back in the mix. I don't know.
I know a guy that can train you.
Do you now? Yeah.
Listen, you saw my technical acumen. You saw I was hitting, standing switches, sit outs, all that shit. You saw it with your own two eyes.
I did. I was a live witness.
Bro, we'd basically be Team Angle.
Yeah, we would.
It'd be amazing.
Maybe I'll think about it, Dom Homie. One last thing before we jump in here. The awards. So we got some time left on the awards. Voting's going to end a little bit closer to the end of this month, probably around the 18th. For the Keeping It Strong Style year-end awards. I want to thank you to everybody that's voted so far. We are very close to hitting where we want to get with the number of voters. So If you haven't voted yet, I know some of you guys are still trying to, rewatch some matches, watch some of the excursion matches to make sure you have accurate, ballots. But get that rewatching done. Get those ballots in. Share the ballots in your groups, on your Discords, on Twitter. Get those votes in, because literally every vote matters, including those second and third place votes. You might not understand why we do that, or might not think it matters. You might throw those votes away. But I'm telling you, looking at some categories, those second and third place votes are going to be very crucial to when we're adding up these votes here.
We're going to wait for the award show, and we got a pretty great guest coming on for that, right?
Yeah. I don't want to jinx it in case something happens, but...
Yeah, we don't want to false advertise.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say, this is the one thing I'll say, and then we'll move on. Almost every year, I feel like we have a very, accurate read and finger on the pulse of the year of New Japan and what's been going on, how people are going to vote, who's going to win. I mean, I can usually just tell you, this who's winning this is winning this, and, with about 95% certainty, and I think you can too. I'm telling you right now that I would have been wrong about 70% of the time on these awards.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these categories. I'm like, man, I'm out of touch.
I don't, and I'm not sure if it's people are voting, but they weren't paying attention all year, or if there is a different feeling amongst the diehard fans that are here that differ from our own, and maybe we are kind of these outliers who've lost touch, and if that's the case, I'm wondering if the people listening to our show, listen in anger, because these awards differ so greatly from our views, but I always felt like we were right in the heart of it. And I guess, I don't know, man, but the votes are close. So we need you guys to vote.
I think some people are voting with their hearts and not their heads. And I think that's a situation there, but
I also think, and this is just an interesting topic, I think that we're a year out from AEW, pretty much launching TV.
Yeah, they had their year anniversary in October.
As much as people who, there's the whole, we don't even really get into it. It's funny. We like AEW.
Yeah.
Jeremy likes it more than I do, but I mean, I watch it when I can, and Jeremy watches it every week. So we're still viewers of that product, but we don't talk about it too much on this show unless it's something relevant. But you go online, you see the discourse, and it's just New Japan fans hate AEW fans. AEW fans maybe a lot of times don't even hate them, but are calling for the two to work together again.
For the door to be open.
Yeah. And then the New Japan diehards are no. And it's just this weird thing. I'm wondering if the audience that is left behind, that's still here, that's still faithful and loyal, I'm wondering if it's that much different from a year ago. Are we dealing with a remnant of people, or are we dealing with, a different fan base and audience than we have in the past? Or, how much crossover is there between the two different audiences,
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of figure out if that's kind of what's going on here. But,
and I don't consider myself I would say my passion and my full attention is directed towards New Japan.
Right.
But, so I don't consider myself an AEW fanboy or anything like that. But, I wonder if my tastes are more in line with someone who watches AEW than maybe a New Japan elitist or something like that,
Right.
I don't know. It's weird.
But you always have accurate takes, ratings, and opinions. So
yeah, ratings are not a game.
Exactly. So I don't know what's going on here. But either way, go out and vote. The link's all over the place. Discord's pinned to the top of the New Japan Reddit Discord, or New Japan Reddit, so you can go out and vote there.
You got to try hard not to vote in this thing, because we got it everywhere.
It's all over the place. It's on the front page, socialsuplex.com. You can find it there. Our Twitter at KI Strong Style, Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. Find it, vote, share it. And
I shared it in multiple Facebook groups this past week. I cross-posted different Reddits. I mean, it's out there.
Yes. So December 23rd episode of Keeping It Strong Style is when we will announce the winners for that. And, knock on wood, hopefully our special guest is, be all locked in, and it should be a really fun show.
I mean, I already scheduled it into my weekend plans. My weekend plans are pretty sacred, so that it better not fall through.
Also, we got to talk about the match of the month and wrestler of the month.
But before we do that, we got FOH draft coming up that same weekend too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
Yeah, a lot of end of the year podcasts and projects are happening right now. Got to get my my column done for the Voices of Wrestling New Japan Year End ebook. I know a lot of the guys on Social Suplex will be doing their year-end stuff. One Nation Radio always does their year-end awards, and I'm sure some of the newer podcasts will be doing year-end awards, and there'll be a lot of retrospectives and us being on other people's podcasts, us bringing other people on. So end of the year is usually a pretty exciting time here at the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yeah, we've got dates scheduled with Ricky and Clive, other podcasters coming on here, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, so make sure you are subscribed to the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style. Make sure you don't miss any of the special episodes that will be coming out across our network, across our airwaves. So we got to talk about the match of the month and wrestler of the month real quick for November. So obviously November is over. We weren't quite ready last week with November kind of rolling into December there last week. So we have our match of the month and wrestler of the month from November. Young boy, do you want to tell the people who the wrestler of the month is?
Yeah, it's an easy one. In fact, this is one of the easiest wrestler and matches of the month we've done maybe ever in the history of the show, because we didn't really have to discuss it. It was just a foregone conclusion. The wrestler of the month is Hiromu Takahashi. That's pretty normal for him to be the wrestler of the month in a month when Best Super Juniors is going on and he's competing in it. So that's not really a surprise. But, I mean, there was really hardly any competition here. I mean, as great as some of these guys have been, Desperado, Sho, Doki, amongst others. I mean, Hiromu was the guy that stood out. He had almost all the matches of the night, most of the nights. And so, yeah, it's really simple. I mean, he's the guy that was having the best matches with everyone in the tournament.
Yep, and with that, one of his matches is the match of the month, that matchup that he had with Robbie Eagles. That is our Keeping It Strong Style November match of the month. And just easily, well, maybe not either. I mean, there are a couple of matches that you could probably consider, but I just think hands down that this was the best match of November, best match of the tournament. And yeah, it's two great wrestlers killing it.
I'm wondering right now if the December wrestler of the month is going to be the man who wins the J Cup. Because they probably won't compete in anything else this month. But that one night tournament with all that talent, that might put someone over.
It could
for the month
Yeah.
in a week in in a lower month. So
right, because we only have a few shows that'll be airing in December. Also, we have these finals coming up December 11th on Friday for World Tag League and Best Super Junior. And then after Super J Cup, there are a couple Road to Tokyo Dome shows that will be airing on New Japan World. But, yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to push some of these guys over.
Well, congratulations, Hiromu and Hiromu Takahashi, Robbie Eagles. Those are your wrestlers and match of the month.
All right, so now let's get people caught up on what's going on with Best Super Junior and World Tag League.
We had a question from Rambo and Slam Pig here.
Yeah, but I was going to get into that.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were. I was trying to be an advocate for my dog.
You pulled at me from last week.
Last week I kept saying the word modicum, but I kept saying mitacom for some reason. I don't know why. It was weird. I realized after the show, I'm like, why did I feel weird? Because I was mispronouncing shit again.
I didn't even catch it.
I did.
But we had a question here from Rambone Slam Pig. I thought it would be interesting to start off with. He said, after watching a lot of this tour in Japanese, I find that I'm really appreciating the English team a lot when I get them. I think Gino has really come a long way and does a great job as a heel commentator who manages to still be likable. What are your thoughts on the current team?
Oh, they're fantastic. Luckily, I've been, pretty much behind almost the whole tour. So that means I've gotten to watch most of it in English. And yeah, I think that Gino Gambino right now is the best, color guy that they have, essentially. I mean, is there anyone else that's better? I think he's better than Rocky.
Yeah.
And I think Rocky's very good, but Gino's just become so quick-witted, really towing the line, like being a heel, but not overstepping his boundaries, still kind of coming off in a professional sense, like not being too sticky,
Right.
Like you listen to like, what's his name? Andy Boy Simmons.
Yeah.
He's very good, but he's so far over the line that it's like a little cartoony, and Gino doesn't really step over that line. Like one comparison would be there's similarities there to like Bobby the Brain Heenan. Some of these just catchy one-liners. I think he's hilarious. I think he's very, very good. And I didn't always think that. I think he's really grown into the role. And I mean, Kevin's the best, color commentator out there, or play-by-play guy.
Yeah, I really love the New Japan commentary team. I think it's a solid team, especially you get Kevin, Gino, and Chris Charlton on the mix here. And like you mentioned, yeah, Gino's really grown into that role. He's very entertaining. He's almost that kind of comedic relief at certain points when things are getting, serious with Kevin and Chris. And like we mentioned several times, yeah, Kevin's just incredible. And Chris Charlton, just the guy that has all that history and the knowledge. And then also, we got to shout out our boy, Chris Samsa, who provides a lot of the data for these guys that helps these guys know what they're talking about. And so, yeah, it's a really great commentary team.
Yeah, I was in a group recently just talking with other wrestling fans. They're like New Japan fans, but I don't think they really listen to the show or anything like that. And then one of them like brought up Chris, and I was like, yeah, Chris been on our show like a million times. And they're like, what? You know Chris Samsa? The guy that gives the stats to Kevin Kelly? And I was like, yeah, he's our boy. Like,
yeah.
Comes on our show regularly. You guys should listen.
Yeah, we got a date lined up for Chris in the future coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So
yeah, that's another exciting thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk Super Juniors. You know what's funny? We didn't even discuss this episode. I thought we were doing the whole like, MVPs and the whole like ratings and all that.
Well, I didn't know if we were doing that or not because technically the tournament's not completely over yet.
Yeah, I guess it's not, but it doesn't matter.
So it's
we'll hold off till next week.
Okay, because we did have some people that asked about certain like ratings and rankings and stuff like that.
That's fine. I mean, we can answer those questions and then we can repeat ourselves next week like we always do.
Well, and next week we'll have a little bit more to cover too with Super J Cup and previewing the Road to Tokyo Dome. So,
oh my God, it's so busy.
Yeah, busy week here.
Actually, this is kind of a nice week. It's like a week off. There's no shows, which I know people want shows, but give me the good shows. I don't need the mid.
So let's talk about Best of Super Juniors here. So, at this point, if you have not watched, spoiler alert, we have our finalists going into Friday's show. So we'll start at the top of the block here. So the top of the block, we have 3 men who ended up with 14 points. That is El Esperado, Hiromu Takahashi, and Taiji Ishimori. So we'll start with El Esperado, who will be going into the finals on Friday. So since we last talked to you guys on December 2nd, Desperado, he defeated the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Taiji Ishimori. On the 5th, he defeated Robbie Eagles. And then on the 6th, that last combined show, that block show, he defeated Bushi to lock his spot in for the finals coming up this Friday.
Yeah, I'm glad to see this. I think that there was a lot of speculation that, like, probably we'd end up with, like, a Ryu Hiromu final. But ending up with Desperado makes sense from a booking standpoint. I mean, the history between these two guys, and it's a long history, as we've said before, but, like, the many numerous promos that they've done towards one another going back, almost the whole year. They seem to continue to mention one another, so this seems fitting to me. I thought Desperado's been very good in this tournament. I thought all 3 of these performances were very good. The Ishimori match was very good and kind of stands out. I think probably I'd take the Eagles match as the best of these 3. The Bushi match was fine. I was thinking it was the final of the night, and I forgot that there was another tag match. So I was like, man, they're main eventing with Desperado and Bushi. That seems not appropriate, but fine. But
big draw Bushi.
but none of these really blew me away, but Desperado himself, I mean, he's been cutting great promos. He's been doing really good work, getting a lot of heat. And, he beat Hiromu earlier, like in the second night of the tournament, through nefarious means in a very good match, one of the better matches of the tournament. So, I mean, it's kind of fitting that they're facing one another again, because it's sort of like what I mentioned previously, how we've mentioned on the show, we don't really like single block tournaments. These two single block tournaments have really solidified that for me, because going back to back, I mean, it's weird. I can do 2 blocks in G1 knowing that the 2 guys are going to fight, but doing 2 single blocks at the same time, I hate that.
Yeah, it was rough.
But the thing I mentioned was how in the past they've done like fuck finishes for, the match that ends up being the final. And that's exactly what happened here. They just didn't happen to do, a throwaway match and a fuck finish. They did a good match. Then they did, the schmaz ending, which kind of leads into the finals. I feel like based on what we've been saying on the show, we probably should have seen this coming.
Right. Well, I think if I remember correctly, we were pretty much calling Desperado to be one of the favorites to at least go into the finals. And
yeah,
Hiromu was always a heavy favorite for me. Hiromu was a guy I think is going to win it. And so it makes a lot of sense here to set up this Desperado-Hiromu final here. Like you mentioned, kind of their history and backstory, even recent history, what we're seeing here with the junior tag situation where Desperado and Kanemaru beat Hiromu and Bushi 3 matches back-to-back, that 2-night tournament, and then the eventual title rematch at one of the Road 2 shows. And, Suzuki-gun came out on top, and Desperado, just being dominant over Hiromu. And then also you mentioned that win in the opening of the tournament. So the momentum's all on Desperado's side here, and it tells a kind of compelling story. It's like, can Hiromu actually beat Desperado, or does Desperado just have Hiromu's number in singles and tags?
Well, he's beaten Desperado in the past, but few and far between. Even since coming back from Excursion, he's sort of been a thorn in his side. So, yeah, you make a great point there. Just stylistically, Desperado is a tough customer for Hiromu.
Yeah, and speaking of Hiromu, it's also tied at 14 points, like I mentioned, and he also has locked himself in and go into the finals. So we will have a Hiromu Takahashi El Desperado finals coming up on Friday on the Nippon Budokan. On December 2nd, Hiromu lost to Sho, 25 minutes, 53 seconds. On the 5th, he defeated Ryusuke Taguchi, 25 minutes and 30 seconds. And then on the 6th, on the final block night, he defeated Master Wato to lock his spot into the finals.
Yeah, with Hiromu going to the finals, it makes a lot of sense. When we were kind of considering the different options, what may or may not happen, I think the fact that there's 2 Wrestle Kingdom nights sort of creates, a lot more possibility for your booking. Mm-hmm. If we had just considered okay, it's Wrestle Kingdom, and let's just pretend it's one night, I think I automatically would have been like, well, Hiromu has to win because he's the biggest star and he's not the champion. So that's the only real scenario that makes sense. But we're kind of making some allowances for maybe someone else to get in opportunities. We're talking about 3-ways and 4-ways. Maybe that could still happen, but logically speaking, the most appropriate and the most, logical thing that could happen is Hiromu wins, which is probably what's going to happen. I mean, that's, we're going to do the preview, but I feel pretty confident about it. But, that kind of knocks out other people like Despy and Sho and stuff like that.
Yeah, to me, from day one, it just kind of made sense for Hiromu to win this tournament, especially just being so close to Wrestle Kingdom. He's featured all over promotional material. He's the biggest star of the division. You can't not have him in the junior title mix in some form or fashion. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense here. Had some great performances these 3 nights. The show match was a really good main event there.
I loved the show match. Sho defeated Hiromu Takahashi on the second. Did you run down these matches?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm spacey tonight. That was probably so far my favorite match in December. I don't think that the latter half of the tournament has trended as high as some of those early tournament matches, but that one really stands out as being phenomenal to me.
Taguchi match was also, we finally got some big match Taguchi here. I mean, there definitely was some comedy throughout the match, especially at the beginning point of the match, but then it really kind of picked up there towards the midpoint of the match and towards the finish there. And Taguchi really kind of turned it up there and was very close to upsetting Hiromu.
Yeah, and that was kind of him being in a spoiler role, which is, I think a lot of people see him that way, but traditionally he doesn't play spoiler in these tournaments. He usually plays like runner-up or block finalist, sort of. He was eliminated pretty quickly, so that ended up, and I don't know if that happens if it's a double block tournament, but because it was single block, the booking kind of changed for him. And we saw some of big match Taguchi. That's probably his best match in the tournament, but it still wasn't at the level I'm used to seeing from Taguchi when it comes to Super Juniors. He usually has at least like 1 4-star level performance. This was a little short of that, but still good. And then Hiromu, he needed to defeat Wato on the final night. Wato was eliminated, but young upstart coming back from Mexico, kind of also in a spoiler role, trying to make a name for himself, and Hiromu was able to dispatch him. Interesting note that I noticed was just that he used Time Bomb 2, and I don't think he used any of his other finishers prior to that.
Yeah, it's very interesting because he's been usually saving the Time Bomb 2 for the super finisher, I Can't Put You Away. He did it once before in the tournament against Robbie Eagles, and that kind of incredible match. He hit the regular Time Bomb on Eagles, couldn't put him away, got him in the D. He was trying everything. He had to put the Time Bomb 2, but here he just wanted to play no games and just hit him with the Time Bomb 2.
Yeah, and it was 10 minutes, 30 seconds. So, I mean, it was kind of interesting because it was an okay match, but he just dispatched him so quick. I don't know if that's because, like you said, no flex zone, not playing games. This is for the finals. I'm gonna beat your ass. I don't know.
Didn't want to play around and get caught slipping on a banana peel and get rolled up or something like that. So,
but I don't know if Hiromu and Sho was Sho's best match of the tournament. It was probably either that or the Robbie Eagles match with Sho. Both very good. Mm-hmm. But definitely Taguchi's best match of the tournament. Good showing from Wato. I mean, Hiromu strolls into the finals. So, yeah. Next up, we've got the champion tied with these gentlemen, 14 points, Taiji Ishimori. He was eliminated from the running due to the fact that his 2 defeats came at the hands of both of these guys. But on the 2nd, he lost to El Desperado. On December 5th, he defeated Master Wato. And then on the 6th, he defeated Sho to knock Sho out of the running for the tournament.
Yeah, very heartbreaking moment there on the 6th for all the Sho fans out there that was hoping to see Sho go into the finals with Taiji knocking him out there. Taiji, I think he's had some, really good performances, these 3 days. He's been, pretty solid this whole tournament, nothing that has been super blow away, but some very good performances. He's really introduced this, or been utilizing the bone lock, which is that.
That's his new finish.
So, which is, we talked about last week, the Border City Stretch, Jurisdiction, Gargano Escape, whatever you want to call it. He calls it the bone lock. So he's been utilizing that throughout this tournament, really working over his opponent's arms and shoulders more than he was when he was just doing the yes lock.
Let me ask you, that name Jurisdiction, is that the name just you gave it, or was it called that before you started using it?
No, I got it from Alex Shelley, and Shelley was calling it the Border City Stretch, so I came up with the name Jurisdiction.
I always thought
you thought it was just called that.
I just thought it was called that. I didn't know you made that name up.
No, man,
fucking worker.
Oh man,
but yeah, Ishimori. These matches were good. I mean, Ishimori is one of the most talented wrestlers on the roster, but he also just seems to kind of, from time to time, mail it in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say inconsistent in the sense of he's ever bad, because he's not. But when he puts forth the effort to really shine, he can. And then when he doesn't, he doesn't. I wonder how much of that lack of effort was down to the fact that he's the champion and he was booked as a second tier guy throughout most of the tournament, despite what the points say. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Good. I mean, good stuff from Taiji. Can't complain too much, but yeah, definitely seems to be one of these guys that kind of has a switch that they can kind of flip on and off, and when they want to go really high gear, they can.
So Sho Tanaka, he is at 12 points. He ended the tournament at 12. He was in the running to potentially win the tournament had he defeated or go to the finals. Had he defeated Taiji Ishimori on the final night, he would have definitely ended up in the finals. On December 2nd, he defeated Hiromu Takahashi. December 5th, he defeated Yuya Uemura. And then on the 6th, he was defeated by Taiji Ishimori. And I got to say, one thing I didn't like about this final night was you notice a lot of these match times were pretty short. And I know I've kind of complained a little bit about the format of the tournament, but on the final night they did, half tag, half juniors. We've seen in the past when they've done the last one or two nights of, say, Super Juniors, they'll typically have both the A and the B block compete together. So, you get these awesome cards where there's 10 matches, all singles, and they don't seem to be shortchanging those guys on those nights when they do that, Right. Like, there's 3 hours here. I don't understand. It felt like a lot of the tag matches got a lot of time, and a lot of these junior matches,
just kind of breezed by.
Right, and I don't like that idea that, a lot of the matches were kind of inconsequential, not inconsequential in the terms of the booking, but I mean, you look at some of these, and it was like we talked about, like Desperado and Bushi, that doesn't scream like a final night tournament match to me, and it was the top of the card. So, but Taiji Ishimori and Sho was one where I was like, okay, that's gonna be really good, and it was good for what it was, but they got 12 minutes, and for Sho to have gone 25 minutes with Hiromu, beat him, be on this tear, and then he loses in 12 minutes, kind of like letting the air out of a balloon or something. Like, I hated that.
I wish that they would have had the block finals on separate nights and given these more time to these matches.
I would have been fine with them doing it together or whatever. Just, I felt like this particular match needed more time. If Ishimori's going to, I don't know what the booking philosophy is. Maybe they're like, maybe they want people to only remember the Hiromu win so that they can do something with him later, right, and kind of downplay his loss to Taiji Ishimori. But I'm of the booking philosophy that, if he looked really, really good in defeat, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
And he didn't look really, really good in defeat because they only had 12 minutes. He looked fine. Ishimori looked fine. It was kind of like it just ended. And it's like, wait, after all that effort, this is what happens? This is supposed to be like the penultimate match for him, and he gets beat. It's supposed to be a pretty heartbreaking thing, and it just kind of passed by.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that.
Kind of afterthought.
It was an afterthought.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, I saw a lot of people talking about how much they liked the final night. I didn't like the final night because I didn't like the pacing and the booking of the way the matches were laid out with the space and everything.
Yeah, it was a very just odd night with, just the back and forth between the tag matches and the junior matches. Like you mentioned, it's the pacing and just, you had a lot of matches where it just didn't really matter who won.
I saw people saying, because the matches were short, like, oh, this was a breeze to get through, which is fine. Normally, I want the show to be a breeze to get through. But when it's the, G1 final night or, the A block, B block final night, I don't really want to breeze through it. I want to, everything's supposed to build to this. It's supposed to be epic as fuck. And it wasn't.
Right.
There wasn't a single 4-star match on this card. And I know it's not all that star ratings, but sometimes it is.
Right.
This is a work rate company.
And I know with a single block tournament, it can be kind of hard to make all the matches matter like you had in the G1 where you had multiple scenarios on those block nights that kind of that was open there, but still, I'm just like, man, that's a lot of these inconsequential matches.
Well, this is one that really mattered because if Sho won, he got in. If Ishimori won, he could have still got in had, hypothetically, Desperado or Hiromu lost.
Right.
So this one should have had a lot of more importance placed on it, and it just, like you said, you put it perfectly, it was afterthought.
Yeah, I would have definitely, more time. It could have had some more false finishes, some more close near falls for Sho. Really kind of get that urgency and desperation for both men, because both men could have, still been alive had they won.
And, I want to talk about the Sho Hiromu match, but we got some questions here. Maybe we could just dive into them. Tom O. Hero E. asked us why, and that's literally how it's spelled out. Why do you feel that show wasn't booked to win Super Juniors?
Well, I just think it's a scenario here. We got Wrestle Kingdom coming up. You want to have, I still don't think Hiromu's winning. You want to have the biggest, most marketable star in the junior title match at the Dome. That's Hiromu. There's a history between Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori. Hiromu lost the title to Ishimori at Jingu. He still needs to get his revenge on Ishimori and get a rematch against him. Kind of a perfect little story there. Makes sense story-wise, drawing-wise, star power-wise, and I just don't think that, show's on Hiromu's level yet.
It's really simple. When we analyzed this, I knew in theory that the winner would go to Wrestle Kingdom, but I wasn't necessarily putting all the emphasis on it like this is going to be Wrestle Kingdom, So I'm like allowing myself to have other options. But when you really put it down to like, okay, the winner is going straight to Wrestle Kingdom, not Dominion or some other show, but the biggest show of the year in the Tokyo Dome, it has to be Hiromu. There is no ifs, ands, buts about it. Unless you have some other compelling thing for Hiromu to do, which it doesn't seem right now that they do, a la Super Juniors. So it had to be Hiromu, and that's the long short of it. Now, they gave him a lot. He did the best in this tournament that he ever has done. He beat Hiromu Takahashi in an excellent match. He had a lot of really great performances. I wouldn't say necessarily the quality or level of matches he's had in the previous Super Juniors, but still, like, from a kayfabe sense, he did so well. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't book him to win because they're booking Hiromu to win.
Right, and it's going to be a long-term story with show. We see with certain guys where they get so close to winning tournaments, it's kind of a year after year thing until they finally get that big moment and get to the finals and win that big moment. So we could be seeing a long-term journey here for show, and where maybe next year he wins it, or maybe 2 years. He keeps getting closer and closer until he actually wins it.
What out of these two matches, what would you say was his best match or performance? The Robbie Eagles match or the Hiromu Takahashi match? Because in my mind, those seem to be his two best matches in the tournament.
Yeah, man, I think I can go either way. I think I'm leaning more towards the Hiromu match.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I liked both a lot. Viking Payne asked us, he said, my friends and I have been talking about this recently, and we agree that Sho is incredible and has a great physique, but we've been divided on his potential due to his height. I think he's around 5'8", and most of them think he's just too short for a heavyweight, especially a main eventer. I know Ishii's 5'7", but he's built different than Sho, whose physique is closer to someone like Ibushi. I don't know, or physique, sorry. I don't know. I just hope down the line he gets a shot in the heavyweight division because I think he could be a major player down the road. What do you guys think?
I mean, we talked about this last week where we kind of see like Sho in this next gear when he's in there with guys, heavyweights like Shingo and Ishii when he's facing heavyweights. And, I think there could be potentially he could be in the heavyweight division. It's kind of hard to say right now. I think the first hurdle for him is to kind of become, a top star in the junior division. I'd like to see him kind of grow in that division and kind of becoming a top kind of pillar for that division. Because right now it's really just Hiromu is like their main star, they're the main pillar that's holding up the division. So I would love to see Sho kind of get elevated in that role before we even get to can he be a heavyweight main eventer.
For me, I don't know that he ever goes heavyweight, but I will say this: he's a true junior in the sense of like stature and size. And when you think of there have been people who have like jumped to heavyweight, but most of them had the frame to do it. You think about Kenny Omega, you think about Tomohiro Ishii, or I'm sorry, he did too. Kota Ibushi, Ospreay, Fujinami, guys like that. They, Makabe, they all had the frame to do it. And when you think about true blue juniors, most of them, like, not only do they not have the hype, but they don't have the believability to, like, in the sense of, like, what New Japan is looking for. I think when I watch Sho go toe-to-toe with heavyweights, any heavyweight I've ever seen him go against, whether it was Okada, who towers over him, or Sonata, or Ishii. I find him to be extremely believable because his physique is incredible. He has an intensity, to his face, and his strikes are, very believable. The size for me, and I know this sounds like I don't know what the word is, like it doesn't bother me for him. And there's other guys it does. Like for instance, Kushida's awesome. I think Kushida competes in any weight class wherever he is. So it's not like he's completely unbelievable, but like there is a lacking intensity when Kushida's wrestling. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's one of my favorites, but he doesn't have that certain fighting spirit that Sho seems to exude when he wrestles, that I think kind of separates the two when you're talking about making that jump to heavyweight, and they're similar body size guys.
Right. And Sho definitely reminds me of, smaller, intense competitors like a Taz and ECW, Chris Benoit, some of these shorter statured, quote unquote, smaller statured guys, but they have that intensity and that realism. Like, you believe this guy can take somebody out bigger than him.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is Sho's a very versatile type of worker. I mean, he can do lucha stuff. He can do, the Japanese strong style stuff. He can do, high-flying junior fast-paced offense. I mean, he can work technical. I mean, he can pretty much do it all. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not, and you know what, he might never go heavyweight, but anytime I see him go against heavyweights, I don't find there to be any suspension of disbelief for me.
Right, it's very believable.
But yeah, so let's talk about Bushi. Bushi ended up with 8 points. He was eliminated. He lost on the he defeated on the 8th Master Wato. That was the second. I'm getting all mixed up. On the 5th, Doki defeated Bushi, and then he dropped his final loss on the 6th to El Desperado. So 1 win, 2 losses.
Yeah, and like we've been saying the last few weeks, Bushi has been fine. He's been having some solid little matches. I did pop that our boy Doki did get the win over him there with the Suplex de Luna on December 5th.
I was very excited for that. I mean, I don't really have much more to say. I mean, it's the same things we always say about Bushi. Solid competitor, incredible entrance gear, wrestles to the level of the guys that he's with. He's a very good wrestler, but, I mean, there's not much more beyond that. I mean, Wato's at a certain level. He wrestled at Wato's level.
Right. And then on the 6th there, he was kind of in the spoiler role against Desperado there, but failed to beat Desperado to prevent Desperado from going into the finals, and ended up with 8 points. And also with 8 points, we had the way to the Grand Master, Master Wato. Like we mentioned, on the 2nd, he was defeated by Bushi. On the 5th, he lost to the current champ, Taiji Ishimori. And then on the 6th, he was defeated by the Ticking Time Bomb, Hiromu Takahashi. So 3 L's in a row here for Master Wato.
So some things I will say. Wato, was getting a lot of criticism going into this tournament, especially considering some of the singles outings that he'd had prior to the tournament. This was going to be a big test for him. I don't know that all the criticisms that had been thrown his way, as far as the in-ring goes, really applied during this tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see too many like mistakes or botches or anything like that.
The first week was pretty rough, especially that match with Eagles where he almost killed Eagles.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, he dropped Eagles on his head off of something, and that first week, that's when I pulled my notes out, and I was like, he does good with the basics, the chain wrestling, some of the grappling is fine, but when he gets to more complicated sequences is when he kind of hesitates, and there's some botches. And so, yeah, the beginning part of the tournament was very rough, in my opinion, for Wato as far as the in-ring performance. But as we got later on in the tournament, I didn't really notice anything too bad from him.
The thing for me was I'm not seeing him make like a lot of mistakes at this point or anything of that nature. but I'm also not coming away super impressed for whatever reason. I mean, the matches are fine. He does do some cool athletic things, but there's something missing, and I don't know quite what it is. That maybe that comes down to character work or the gimmick itself. I'm wondering if this tournament would be considered a failure or a success for him, because it does seem like he's improved to some degree and gotten a little more comfortable. But I think what some like proponents of his were, hoping was that like he would, kind of show the naysayers wrong, really showcase himself, really break out. And that kind of didn't happen, I don't think. I can't even think of a single match of his in this tournament that I thought was even very good.
Yeah, and I think he had like maybe one main event. The majority of his matches were either kind of that opening spot there in the show, somewhere in the middle of the card. He never really got much time to shine, but even with the time he was given, like you mentioned, he didn't really kind of go out there and maximize his minutes and really show what he could do. I mean, like you said, he's a good worker. I mean, he had some good matches this tournament, but there was nothing that was like, oh my gosh, you need to watch this Master Wato match on this night. Like we're really seeing him come into his own.
No.
And it just wasn't there.
Did he beat Desperado in that main event?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That seems wrong now. But yeah, I mean, the one last thing is obviously there's a big story. I mean, not a big story, but like the kind of continuing story throughout the tournament is Tenzan, being his mentor, almost being like a father-like figure, bestowing his moves upon him, speaking for him during the, post-match press conferences. But I don't know where they're going with this. I guess 2021 will have a lot of, tests and things in store for Wato going forward.
Yeah. So also coming in with 8 points, tying up with Master Wato and Bushi, was the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, who defeated Taguchi on the 2nd. He fell to Desperado on the 5th, and then on the final night, he defeated Yuya Uemura.
Yeah, Eagles is probably the MVP of guys that are in the bottom half of the tournament. I see him more in line with like Sho Ishimori, Hiromu, and Desperado as far as like where I think he should be placed, where I think his skill level warrants him to be, and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, the booking didn't really pan out for him that way, but he still had some of the best matches in the tournament. He kind of wasn't given as many big match opportunities, a few, these last couple nights, 13 minutes, 14 minutes, 7. They're all good. I liked the Uemura match quite a bit, actually. I thought that match was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, and we'll talk about Uemura in a second, but yeah, that match was really good. And I'm wondering, with Eagles, he's another guy, like we mentioned with Taguchi, who was affected by single block booking. Like if this was a 2-block tournament, would he have gotten to that 10, 12 point threshold?
I'm also wondering if, just because of the pandemic, if he's also similar to someone like, say, not quite the same level, but Hanare. Both of them were gone for a long time, only returned here at the very tail end. And it's almost like they were frozen in time and given the exact same placement that they were at. There's no like rolling out the red carpet for their grand return. It's just kind of like, oh, that's where you were at last, in 2019.
Right.
Well, step on up. You're right back there. So, and it does kind of suck because it felt like Robbie was on his way to at least getting a title shot against Hiromu this year, maybe in line for some other things, and it just kind of didn't pan out. Also, who knows? I hate to be the fantasy booker here, but, there's a lot of speculation about him joining Empire. They're not really alluding to that on the show that I could see. But one thing that seems to kind of be the running theme within that group is people who felt underutilized, felt, underpushed or, held back, whatever. I am wondering, what if the story here is like Robbie Eagles should be at the top. He's clearly not. And that could be the catalyst, similar to like Jeff Cobb, for him to feel disenfranchised and maybe join up with those guys.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. And if they're building to that, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, they haven't laid any seeds yet. So, I mean, that turn would be very interesting if they kind of pull that out soon. And also, this is the theme of Empire. We're seeing like each guy kind of has their kind of country they're representing. So, obviously, you got O'Connor representing Japan, Cobb, not really country, representing Hawaii or Guam, I guess you could say.
I thought it was Guam, but now they're saying Hawaii.
Yeah, so either way, he's representing some kind of island. And then you got Osprey representing the UK. So you would bring in Eagles here to represent Australia. So that could kind of fit in with the aesthetics of the Empire. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. But yeah, Robbie had some good performances these 3 nights, like you mentioned. Didn't get a ton of time these 3 nights. Wasn't really in a prominent position here. But overall in the tournament, Robbie was one of my favorite guys to watch. And you could always kind of count on him to have some good performances.
I mean, at this point, the whole Empire thing for me, it is just a speculation. And I don't usually give a lot of credence to ideas like that. But I don't know that would be a bad place for him. I mean, if you think about Chaos, which, people are talking about Chaos like breaking up this year. I mean, they've got Rocky, they've got Sho, they got Yo. Is that all the juniors they have right now, pretty much, because Osprey's gone?
Yeah.
They had 5 juniors. That seems like a lot for one group. And, Eagles is there now. I mean, unless, like, they decide to, like, kind of go with him as the premier junior in the group. But, I mean, it doesn't seem that way. It seems like Sho's that guy. So
I also have seen people talking about Eagle and Sho being a junior tag team.
Oh, I would love that. I mean, that would be cool too. But the only reason I speculate about it is just because it's like him. They got to know how talented he is, and he's pretty dedicated to the company. So maybe this is the quote unquote seeds being planted right now. They're just not doing anything very overt to hint at it. It's just like that's why he's only got 4 wins.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe not. We'll see.
So somebody else that only ended up with 4 wins is the coach, Ryusuke Taguchi. Finished here with 8 points. He was defeated by Robbie Eagles on the 2nd. On the 5th, he lost to Hiromu. And then on the 6th, he pulled up a win here over Doki.
Yeah, when we send financial reports of different funds and things of that nature to our clients, we always are sure to let them know, like, hey, this is the history of how these funds have performed, but, prior performance is not going to guarantee future projections. But it's always a good, you can kind of look at the patterns, you can see how they behave. That's how, market analysts and people like that, kind of, the super nerds kind of figure out what they think will or won't happen, yada, yada. Taguchi's much that way. If you looked at the past, you'd have to say, like, this has been his trend, but, prior performance is not going to ensure future projections. And I mean, if you looked at the previous, performances, you might have been a smart man to put a little bit of money on him to end up with like 10 or 12 points. But this man came in with 8, which is very underperforming for him. Got to be like probably this is probably Taguchi's worst Super Juniors in like a decade.
Yeah, and it was bad worse for him in kayfabe and in just match quality.
Yes. Well, that's almost everybody, though, too.
Yeah. So kayfabe, normally he's in that kind of 10, 12, maybe potentially going to a final kind of spot. And then normally, yes, he's doing the comedy shtick. He's, he's still doing the ass-based offense. But typically, you get, a handful of big match Taguchi matches where he has a 4-star, maybe a 4 1/4, maybe even a 4.5 matchup, and you're getting some solid matches from it you can put in the notebook. But we really didn't get that here in this tournament. This tournament was all comedy based. Everything was about the comedic, the ass based offense. His trunks coming down, the different colored tights that he had underneath his trunks, and
Was he? Yeah, I think he was wearing the red and green for like Christmas.
Yeah, he was wearing red. There was one night he was wearing black, and also it's a lot of comedy based around the ass that we've joked about the last couple of weeks here. And the Hiromu.
Oh, I got in trouble for those jokes, by the way.
You did?
Yeah. Well, I don't care.
Okay.
Apparently, I shouldn't make it. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into it.
Anyway,
Hey, it's my show. I'm gonna make the jokes I want to tell.
Man, I lost my train of thought there.
Let's just cut to the chase. Like, Taguchi wasn't very good this year. Usually he fucks off for most of the year and pulls out a couple good performances. He didn't really do that this year. And he lost. Like, what? How many matches do they have? 9? So he lost 5 matches. So he sucked.
Yeah, not a great tournament here for the coach.
Nope. But let's talk about someone who, talking about the points, you might think this person didn't have a great tournament, but they had a fantastic tournament. And it's the man with the bent pipe, Doki.
Yes, Doki coming in here with 4 points on the second. He defeated Uemura, got his first win.
Someone's O had to go.
Yes. Then he followed up with another win, defeating Bushi, like we mentioned earlier. And then on the 6th, he lost to Risuke Taguchi.
I would have had him beat Taguchi.
He should just won the last 3. He's picked up that momentum there. But yeah, very happy to see Doki, get those 2 wins on the 2nd and the 5th. He's, one of the hardest working guys in the tournament, going out here, having great performances night after night. His best match in the tournament is probably the Hiromu match, and not just because it was Hiromu. Like he did great in that on his side too, and he has had some really great performances throughout this whole tournament. Really starting to get the moveset over, and we talk about the Doki bomb that he's been doing, and the suplex a Luna, and the daybreak DDT, and the Italian stretch that he does, and yeah, this guy is just one of these guys that came in last year as a replacement, received a ton of criticism, and has just really turned things around, and performance-wise was one of the top guys in this tournament.
Doki fucks hard. I love Doki, man. I've really grown to like him like quite a bit. Some guys are Taka guys. Some guys are Kanemaru guys. You got your Despy guys. I'm a Doki guy, okay?
Yeah, man. Doki, on One Nation Radio, they like to talk about, Roderick Strong and Frankie Kazarian wrestling like they can't go back. Well, Doki's on that list. Doki's not going back. He's not going back to those grimy Mexican indies. He's staying here in the big leagues in New Japan, and he put his effort in here.
That's how I wrestle.
So let's get a 4-way. You, Roddy, Doki, and Kazarian.
Fuck no. Oh my God. Hell no. But that's how I wrestle. I wrestle like I can't go back. This is it. Now or never. Never surrender. Never quit. Hustle, loyalty, respect. Yeah, man. And all these matches were very good. Out of all of them, I liked the Uemura match the best.
Because
the Uemura match was awesome.
Yeah, we can pretty much lump Uemura here. So Uemura had 0 points here.
Loser.
No wins. Like we mentioned, he lost to Doki on the 2nd, lost to Show on the 5th, and lost to Robbie Eagles on the 6th. But yeah, in that Doki match, both guys were coming in with 0 points. It seemed like a winnable match for Uemura, and pretty much every match Uemura came out with a house of fire, didn't back down from anybody, and pretty much tried his best to win the match. And the Doki match, he really came close to some great near falls. In this last stretch, he was really starting to hit that double arm suplex, but not really able to follow up with the pins on it all the time, and getting some kind of good near falls off some of these bigger impact maneuvers he's doing. But
Uemura is fantastic. Narita is still my guy when it comes to the young lions that are on excursion or that are still active. But he was in the same spot last year. Had a great showing. But I don't know if last year how do I put it? Narita's still the man, but Uemura I think has more upside long term. I think he's like the total package. He's got it all together. He's so good, so slick, so believable. He's incredible. And I think there's a very, very bright future for you, Uemura.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he's going to be like once he comes back from excursion.
MJ Does PR asked us this question. Grade this year's Best of the Super Juniors without compelling storylines. What are we to make of the state of the junior division right now?
So do you want to just give an overall letter grade for the whole tournament? Or...
Yeah, I'll give it a grade right now. C-.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. It was average overall.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst Best Super Juniors that we've reviewed in the last 3 years.
Oh man, this is probably the worst Super Juniors. Man, it's like 2010 in like a decade, maybe, and you know what? You might have to go back further than that. That sounds right to maybe like you might be talking like Dark Ages.
But as far as some of those Dark Age tournaments, I mean, I know we didn't watch all the matches, but they had some really good guys in there.
Well, we got a lot of good guys right now too.
Yeah.
But there was a lack of storylines. There was a lack of like creative direction. It was a single block tournament, which those are problematic just by the nature of the booking. I mean, the tournament wasn't bad. It just was bland. You know, it was like some chicken with no seasoning, you know? I mean, it'll fill you up. It's going to make you stronger, but it doesn't taste that good, you know? And it's not even, they didn't even like...
you don't get excited to eat it.
No, they didn't even bake it. They boiled it. Okay? They boiled it, put it in the fridge. Now you got to reheat it in the microwave.
And you got to try to put some Sweet Baby Ray's on it to cover up the taste.
And yeah, that's Hiromu.
Yeah.
And you know why? It's because you got no other food in the cupboard right now. And so that's what you got to do. You know, it's December. It's slim pickings, and that's what we got here. You know, the state of the junior division right now, let's be honest, if we're going to be completely honest, the junior division isn't ever really that compelling. I mean, from time to time, there might be a moment where they heat up 3 or 4 guys simultaneously or have a really good singles feud as well as a junior tag team title feud going at the same time. But for the most part, most of the juniors are pretty much relegated to multi-man matches throughout the year. And it's really just periodic focus on whoever's in the title picture or both title pictures, essentially. And then the one time of the year where they get a lot of focus and the whole division seems fleshed out and there's stories and everything is World Tag League, or I'm sorry, Best Super Juniors. Because Super Juniors was lackluster this year, it makes it feel as though, you know, the division is completely squandered. Plus the fact that, like, most of the foreigners are gone. It's December. I mean, there's a lot going against it. It's not all their fault.
Right. I mean, yeah, junior division is definitely the one division in New Japan that is really, you know, supported by imports and bringing in, you know, guys like Robbie Eagles and bringing in, you know, all those guys. You know, we could have potentially, if there was no COVID, we could have probably seen ACH and TJP and Chris Bay, all the guys that are in the Super J Cup. We probably would have seen them here in Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors. So, you know, they really do rely heavily on those guys and talents for the junior division. And you look at the division, I mean, it's a one trick show right now where it's Hiromu is, you know, the main star that's in the division. You know, there are guys coming up. You got Sho there that's on the cusp there. I mean, Taiji is a good performer. Despy's good, but those guys are just nobody else in the division is on Hiromu's level. It's like Hiromu and then everybody else.
You want to hear something that people won't like if I say it? The juniors are the women's division of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
Oh, you're only going to have one juniors match on this card? You need to make more time for the juniors.
Give juniors a chance.
Juniors Revolution.
Oh man, I guess I'm going to have to start pulling out my my stopwatch for these junior matches and making sure they're getting equal time with the heavyweights in New Japan here. But yeah, but in all seriousness, that's the issue with the junior division. just weren't able to bring in a lot of the imports, and you got, it's centered around one guy right now.
Yeah. So let's talk World Tag League.
Yes, good old World Tag League. So
I know that we sound like downers. I'm sure there's some people listening that are like, these guys hate New Japan. I assure you we don't. Obviously, we're watching all this. But we got to call it like it is. Got to tell you guys the truth. Tell the truth.
That is the one thing that we're not going to shy away on here on this show, on this network. If we feel like something is bad, we're going to tell you it's bad, and we're going to give you our true, honest feelings on things here on New Japan. We're still big fans of the show. That's why we're doing this podcast every week. That's why we've been doing it for the last 3 years, 158 episodes. But yeah, just we're not going to love every single thing. We're not going to be those fans that just
no cap zone.
Right.
All right.
So, World Tag League. So, on top of the block here, we had 3 teams that finished up with 12 points at the end of block action.
Oh, and it was crazy. They're like, there's 17 different scenarios, and I was like, my geez. We ended up with like the most like obvious one out of all.
What I called last week. So on top of the block here, we had Finjuice, Juice Robinson, Dave Finley finishing with 12 points. We had Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa finishing with 12, and the current IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, the Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. So starting off with Finjuice, on December 4th, they defeated Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano, and then on the final block night on December 6th, they defeated the other Chaos team of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi to lock in their spot into the finals of the World Tag League.
Yeah, I mean, Juice Robinson and Dave Finley. With them, I can definitely... Here's one thing that is good about the World Tag League. I didn't think the action overall has been better than, say, Super Juniors, but there have been more concurrent storylines and like kind of reasons to invest in guys and get behind them. I think that's one of the reasons why this quote unquote hot take is going around about how Tag League is so watchable, although I don't think it actually is, to be honest with you. But I think it's because for people that are paying attention, it's easy to kind of invest in what some of these people are doing. And with Juice and Dave, I mean, obviously they didn't have a great year. Like, they won the titles last year and then dropped them almost immediately after winning Tag League and winning in the Tokyo Dome. And then COVID happened and they never really came back up. And then, Juice has kind of been lackluster, in the G1. Dave kind of, lost his tournament opportunities in America. So kind of similar paths, but here in the tournament, it was like they won one, lost one, won one, lost one. They're like back and forth. And then they started like, they went from cutting these comical, promos to like, all right, we need to get our shit together because we're the best fucking tag team in the world. And we need to start acting like it. And it's like something in their belief started to change. They've always been one of the better. I mean, when it comes to Tag League, they're always like one of the most consistently performing and entertaining tag teams, and they kind of showcased that throughout the tournament. I mean, performing at a super high level, and they eked it out with 12 points.
Yeah, and definitely consistent here. These last 2 nights against these both Chaos teams, I thought these matches were both really good. Both, they were against, both the two Chaos teams are both workhorses also.
Yeah.
So you had these teams really going out here and working really hard. So I really enjoyed Finjuice versus Ishii and Yano, and Finjuice versus Goto and Yoshihashi. Of course, in that Goto-Yoshihashi match, Juice Robinson, he pins his old rival, Hiroki Goto, with the Pulp Friction to kind of lock in Finjuice. So in a way, that was kind of like a mini story there, because if you kind of follow Juice, you know that he had that rivalry with Goto, and it was kind of this thing where he had to beat Goto, and he finally beat Goto in singles. So there's still that history and rivalry between those two guys. So kind of another kind of great moment there for Juice to be able to beat his old rival Goto to lock in the spot for the finals.
Yeah, these guys just showing, last year wasn't a fluke, and they are going to get more serious about this tag team thing. And you know what? That might need to be what they're going to do, because you brought up just now an instance where they were kind of really going with a singles push, single storyline revolving, involving Juice Robinson, and they've tried several times, and timing just hasn't been on his side for whatever reason. And I don't always agree with it, but like, it's very clear. I don't think they are going with him in any prominent way in a singles role going forward. I think he'll still be in G1s, but like for the time, especially with there not being a white belt currently, this might be the best opportunity for him. And kind of the same thing with Dave Finlay. He returned, seemed like they were going to start focusing on him in a singles capacity, start jobbing him out almost immediately to like Lance Archer and shit. And they're both really good performers, but this might kind of be their niche for the time being, at least.
Right. It's a niche that needs to be filled right now.
Right.
I mean, we don't have a lot of, tag teams in this division that wrestle all year long. You got GOD, and that's, pretty much it. So, yeah, you have these, a team, it seems like GOD that have been in the division. There's not many other teams here that's year round. We get caught in these holding patterns with the tag division where, you only have like 2 or 3 teams that the division's kind of based around, and it's even been, majority of this year has been Dangerous Tekkers and Golden Ace, but Golden Ace is done. We got Dangerous Tekkers there, but it's good to have more teams kind of in that niche, and I think having FinJuice kind of be in that role for now, just being another team there that we can count on throughout the year is great.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tama Tangaloa. They're also our finalists with 12 points. GOD on December the 4th, they defeated the Empire. On December the 6th, they defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi and Toa Hanares. 3 minutes and 55 seconds for that match. They Tama Tonga tapped out Hiroshi Tanahashi with
Scorpion Deathlock / Sharpshooter, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, big moment there. Hanares making their entrance. GOD jumps them from the bell. They're beating down Tanahashi and Hanare early in the match. Tama locks in that Scorpion Deathlock on Tanahashi, weakens the knee. Hanare's able to make the save, but then eventually GOD did a dispatch of Hanare, and they locked that Scorpion Deathlock back on Tanahashi. And yeah, the good bad guy gets the ace to tap out 3 minutes and 55 seconds into the matchup.
Yeah, I don't really know what that specifically means. I did see the tweet that like Tama put out there talking about like tapping out Tanahashi in like under 5 minutes, which I don't know. I don't know how I was feeling about that when I saw it happen. But yeah, I mean, that solidified them going to the finals like right away. No matter what happened for the rest of the night, they were going to be in the finals.
Right. And yeah, I mean, huge kind of upset there with Tanahashi taking the fall and submitting to Tama Tonga. And that just leaves a bunch of questions like, yeah, where's this going? Like, does this lead to somehow Tanahashi's match at the Dome? Like, is Tanahashi going to face somebody from Bullet Club? Is he going to face Tama Tonga in a singles match at the Dome? Like, definitely a lot of questions here.
Yeah, I'm really not sure on that front. I think that's a big. We can talk about it when we get to Hanaris, but I think that's the big question. And like, a lot of people are like, "The fuck is Hiroshi Tanahashi doing at the Dome?" Like, that's weird. But anyways, God. Here's the thing I will say. I think they're the most mid of all the top level teams that were in this tournament. I mean, they didn't have any bad matches, but they didn't have any great matches either, really. They kind of just went out there and like they're the new Sonata and Evil. Like, they're capable of having a really good match when they are called upon to do it, but they just went out there, did their job every night, played their roles. They're good. They're fine. They got their act down, but I wasn't like on the edge of my seat for any of these GOD matches. None of them. Yeah,
there was it this? No, I think their Ishii Yano match, I remember, it was pretty good. The match with the Empire was a pretty decent match also here on December 4th.
Here's one thing I will say. and I alluded to this point earlier, and I think I should get it out of the way before we continue. So I've seen a lot of people talking, people that are fans, they're like, man, this is a really watchable tournament. 10 teams, shorter format, although they're not like factoring in the fact that it's like, well, it's tied to the Super Junior, so it's actually longer format. And then they're like, we got some new team ups here. We don't have the dads anymore. It's just more fresh. And those are all valid points. But like at the end of the day, man, there was like one, maybe 4-star match the whole tournament. And it was probably LIJ against Dangerous Techers.
Yeah.
And then other than that, did you have another one?
No, I was going to say, I think the reason why a lot of people might be saying this year's tournament is more watchable and giving it praise is because this is probably one of the first tournaments they have watched because it's tied to Super Juniors.
I think that might play into it. I also think because that it has been a story-heavy tournament, there have been some compelling things happening with different groups. You had you've got the Empire. They're like a new faction that's kind of like really playing a big role here. From a booking standpoint, I don't think it's been terrible. From a storyline standpoint, it hasn't been bad. But like, I am used to getting some bangers during World Tag League. We did not get bangers during this World Tag League.
Right.
Like, these were slogs for me to get through. And I know I'm a work rate fan. I know you are too. I know not everybody is, but I mean, like, that's kind of why I watch New Japan. I do enjoy the storylines, but I mean, anyone who watches the show knows like the storylines are very secondary. It's a sports oriented presentation.
Right. And there's a lot of stories that happen in the ring within the match.
Correct.
And so that was missing this year. I know we had, in the past we had teams like War Machine and Best Friends and Killer Elite Squad or even Archer and Suzuki. These teams, and heck, even, Tenkozi every once in a while put in something, and it's like
Elgin and Cobb.
Yeah.
Bro, we've had some awesome tag teams in the past, and like I think a lot of people just don't watch those tag leagues and they don't realize that like this is not as good. Bell to bell, it is not as good as the other tag leagues. It's just not. It's true. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
We've covered 4 tag leagues. This is the worst one.
Yeah, because 2017 was the first one we covered. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me the tag league from 2 years ago that had all the dads in it. Give me that one over this any day, literally. But anyways, so we'll move on. But yeah, GOD, they're going to the finals. I think the big story here, I don't think we got a lot of like in-depth insight into them, but the big story is they've won more tag league matches than any tag team in history. They've been to the finals multiple times in the past. They've never been able to win the big one. They've been multiple-time champions, but they've never won a tag league. And in modern times, that is one of the benchmarks of like the quote-unquote all-time great tag teams in New Japan. If you're a really, really decorated tag team, you win the tournaments, and they've never done it.
Yeah, I think another storyline that comes into play here is just the history between Guerrillas of Destiny and FinJuice. Obviously, last year, FinJuice won the tournament, which set up them beating GOD at the Dome to get the titles, and then GOD cheated to get the titles back in Finley's hometown during that USA tour at the beginning of the year, and FinJuice has not been able to get a title rematch. So there is this kind of history and rivalry that was built between these two teams. So that personal animosity, it continues here. And also, after FinJuice defeated Goto and Yoshihashi, GOD came out and laid them out, attacked them, kind of, again, really exciting this rivalry, making it personal. So a lot of heat kind of going into this final match on Friday. Yeah,
you did a really great job recapping that. I kind of completely forgot those aspects of the story, but they're all valid. Tomohiro Ishii asked us, is it GOD's year? And I've been saying since before this tournament started, I thought it was going to be their year. With how much parity booking there was throughout the tournament, it did give me reason to think, well, maybe they don't go with them. And, obviously there's always that concern, well, The Techers are heels. GOD are heels. If they go into the dome, it's going to be heel versus heel. But I think that one of the things we've seen all throughout the tournament is how, well the Dangerous Techers are able to kind of like cross, the heel face baby, dynamics.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that I have no worries about them being able to face one another in the dome after this.
And even if GOD does end up winning, there's still a scenario where this ends up still being a 3-way or 4-way title match.
Bro, I kind of hope they do that because that matchup doesn't sound that enticing to me, especially after what we saw out of these two teams earlier in the tournament. Like, I was talking to Jeremy the other day. I was like, yeah, throw another team in there. You know what's funny? A couple of years ago, what was that? What ended up being the 6-man? It was Bucks against GOD and Sonata and Evil. I think that's what it ended up being. I don't know. All I know is we ended up with the champions and then the challengers going into the dome, and then on the last day, like, the Young Bucks showed up and like inserted themselves into the match without having even been through the tournament. And I was like, bro, we just watched this whole fucking tournament. It completely nullifies the point of the tournament. So I was like salty. I was complaining. Jeremy was like, but it makes the match better.
I'm like, it's the Young Bucks.
And I was like, but that's stupid booking. Why did we watch this tournament if these guys just get to show up and be in the match? At this point, right now, I don't give a fuck. Throw another tag team. Throw 2 more tag teams in there. Makabe and Hanma, come on down. I don't give a fuck. It could be anybody. Like, I don't care. Yeah, put Nagata and Kojima in there. Whatever.
Dude, the Nagata and Kojima should have been in the tournament.
Yeah, they would have fucking ruled.
Yeah, they would have been raw and had some more, give us some great matches. But, GOD and Techers match at the Dome, not the most
It's happening, man. Who do you well, I guess we'll get to the thing, but I think it's their year.
Yeah, I mean,
it kind of has to be.
I think they're winning, but I feel the title match is going to be, they're going to look at the tournament and be like, oh, well, this team beat the Techers, so we're putting them in the tournament also, kind of thing, in the title match.
Maybe, but they're winning. All I know is the record books, just how the record books show me as having no losses currently. The record books are going to show GOD as having won the tournament. That's what matters.
So the other team that is tied with these two teams, Finjuice GOD, like we mentioned, was the current IWGP Heavyweight Tag Champs, Dangerous Techers, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. On the 4th, the Techers defeated Fale and Chase Owens, and then on the final block night on the 6th, they defeated the Chaos team of Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano. I really like that 6th match with Ishii and Yano.
Yeah,
we see the great chemistry that Taichi and Ishii had, and Ishii and Zack have, and that really just came to fruition in this matchup.
Zack and Yano.
Yeah, Zack and Yano. Yeah, their KOPW rivalry they had this year.
I thought this was the best match the two of them had against one another all year.
Yeah,
even more than the G1 match.
Yeah, so yeah, really good stuff here. I mean, it was only 10 minutes and 36 seconds on this final block night that had a lot of shorter matches, but really good stuff here between these teams, and Dangerous Techers and them getting the win, but they were not able to, get enough points. Well, they got enough points, but they weren't able to get into because of the tiebreakers. They lost to Finjuice and Guerrillas of Destiny.
For those of you paying attention, you're going to notice we have 2 tournaments. Both tournaments, the champions ended up with the same point totals as the 2 winners, but they were eliminated due to tiebreakers. So pay attention for the future when you're doing your brackets, when you're doing your projections. It is very common for Gato to do this type of booking. And we saw 2 examples of it in the same, 2 blocks.
Yeah, especially in a single block tournament.
Especially. I will say this. Zack and Taichi, one of the best, probably one of the best tag teams in the entire tournament. They're not my MVPs this year. I thought they're close. I think they're a close second, probably, but still just phenomenal. Like we talked about, being able to go back and forth between heel and babyface. so entertaining on their post-match promos have been
great. Yeah,
they're so fucking great. One thing I wanted to point out, I didn't mention on the other show. I'm pretty sure Zach is like semi-fluent in Japanese right now because he can understand it.
Right.
Because in the past, when they would cut promos, Taichi would talk, Zach would talk. They would have nothing to do with one another. But now that Zach's living there, Taichi's saying stuff, and Zach is responding in very specific ways to what he's saying, and they're not like they're very specific. So
right,
it's like
they're playing off of each other.
Yeah, they're playing off of each other to the point where like they have to know what each other is saying.
Yeah.
Which leads me to be like, oh, well, they're both learning foreign languages, which is kind of cool. My big question is, all throughout the year, we talked about the renaissance of the tag team division. I think before COVID, we really thought we were seeing that. And then, things kind of changed once COVID happened. But, if we're being completely honest, I think if I look up and down this list, these three teams that we listed are the only real tag teams in the entire company right now, for the heavyweights, realistically, or at least like main active ones.
Right.
And especially in this tournament. So, we, for all the talk of like, the company reinvigorating the tag team division and yada, yada, these are your three teams right now. And you ended up with the final with the same two teams that were in the final last year. We're literally right back where we were at the end of 2019 when it comes to them. And I'm wondering how long the Dangerous Techers are going to stick around, because both of these guys are prominent singles wrestlers and they are kind of a semi-mishmashed group. I don't know if they're going to stay as a tag team long term.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, interesting to look at. I don't know. I mean, because, I think there's money to be made in Taichi and Zach as singles. And like we mentioned, the tag team division, usually you get in this holding pattern where it's like three teams that are kind of holding division together, that they wrestle each other literally all year long. And that's kind of where we're at now with Finjuice, GOD, and Dangerous Techers. Also, it didn't seem as noticeable because of COVID, and Finjuice and GOD were stuck in the States. But I'm sure, if they were here all year, that these teams would be frequently in the tag title picture.
Yeah, I agree. Rambo and Slam Pig asked us, are Suzuki-gun falling into the old Bullet Club trap of being so enjoyable and so over that it is hard for them to get heat like they used to? Do you think their perception in the West is wildly different than how the domestic audience sees them?
So I don't know if they're kind of falling into the Bullet Club trap, because with the Bullet Club thing, obviously it was kind of a period of NWO and those guys kind of living out and being the guys that they idolized watching during the Monday Night Wars, and they wanted to kind of be cool heels, and they were doing the Suck-Its and the Too Sweets, and all that was over with the Western fans. I feel like with Suzuki-gun, the lack of crowds and the lack of crowd interaction really does really does hurt them as far as kind of coming off as these menacing heels. I feel like in this tournament, though, particularly, Dangerous Techers were kind of put into a spot where that they had to be either tweeners or baby faces going up against some of the other heel teams, like the Bullet Club teams or the Empire. And so that they really kind of had to switch roles there. But I mean, you got guys like Suzuki's obviously still very menacing and comes across. Obviously, as the Western fans, we love Suzuki for his work. But I feel like domestically, he's still kind of seen as like you don't mess with Suzuki. And I feel like Despy and Kanemaru still kind of get the heat they need to get. And Doki, he's using the pipe in his match, and even though he's having great performances, I still feel like, for the most part, Suzuki-gun is still kind of feeling that heel role.
I think Suzuki-gun has always gotten love, but I wonder if the Western audience is more so coming around to the way that the Japanese audience has always seen them. Because like you mentioned, when they need to get heat, they can get heat, but they're definitely respected. They're definitely revered. I think the one different aspect that you're getting with Dangerous Techers that you sometimes see from like Desperado and some of these guys, and even Suzuki, but like Dangerous Tekkers are extremely charming, you know? And I think that might play into what he's asking is like, they're so charming that it's hard for them to continue to get heat. I don't know if it is for the rest of the faction, but like, I mean, I think people like Dangerous Tekkers.
Yeah, they do.
So, you know, I don't think that they really try to like play up to the crowd or try to be the cool heels, but they kind of are a little bit that way. So, I think there's definitely something to what he's asking. But, you know, the big difference between them and say like, let's say the Young Bucks, I mean, the Bucks could try to like turn on someone and be vicious. And I mean, I guess they came off that way, but like when, you know, freaking Zach is tying up a bitch in a bunch of, you know, pretzel sticks. And then, you know, you got like Tai Chi hitting someone with a hammer or like with the mic stand. I mean, there's no like allusions to the idea whether they're good or bad. I mean, It's very clear. So I think that's the biggest difference. Like they can turn it on and off, you know, on a dime.
Yeah. So let's look at the next team here. We have a set of teams here that all kind of came in with 10 points. So the first of those teams is the LIJ team of the Never Openweight champion Shingo Takagi and the Cold Skull G1 finalist Sonata. On the 4th, they defeated the team of Hanar Ace. That was the main event that night, 19 minutes, 25 seconds. And then on the 6th, the final block night, they fell to the Empire, which knocked them out of contention of getting to the finals of the overall tournament.
I think that this is your MVP for the tournament, pretty clearly, unless like something really big happens where, you know, I don't think GOD's in contention, but I do think maybe Finjuice is, and if they have a really great final match, that might change my opinion. But right now, this is my MVP of the tournament. Very compelling all throughout. On the 4th, I was very disappointed because I was, you know, I think we were both projecting Tanahashi to, you know, upset Shingo and, you know,
in that never title match at the Dome.
And instead, the story of the match was mainly Toa Hanare going after Shingo, which is fine. I think that's something we've been calling for, and I think it's something that they wanted to do last year.
Right, they were teasing that pre-pandemic of Hanare wanting to get a never title shot.
Yeah, so that's been in the works. It's been on ice, and now it's unthawed. But like, I was clamoring for Tanahashi and Shingo, and that was hardly. I mean, once I realized it wasn't even the story of the match, I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, once you had that long stretch of Tanahashi and Shingo being in, and then Tanahashi tags in Hanare, I was like, "Damn it,
it's not happening." Yeah. So, you know, I looked like a fool. I was predicting this thing pretty wildly to people. I thought I was Nostradamus over here. I thought I was ahead.
Trying to be ahead.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong. And LIJ picks up the win there. Then the next night, they face off against the Empire. And, you know, the big story here is Jeff Cobb picked up Shingo for the Tour of the Islands, crashed him to the mat. 1, 2, 3, picked up the victory here, and then held the never. I think he held the never bell over him, right? Something like that.
I'm blanking right now.
Too.
But I know he definitely he pinned Shingo, and that was kind of the angle that it seemed like Cobb would be coming for Shingo.
In my mind's eye, I remember the never title actually being there, and him holding it over him. So that's what I'm going to stick to. But you know, earlier this tournament on the first night, everyone's like, oh god, they're gonna do Okan and Tanahashi, and maybe they still will, but you know, they threw that out there, and we've heard nothing about it since that first night. We're like, whoa, just hold on, like, let's just let the tournament play out. But this one, to me, seemed very clear that this was your classic New Japan, I'm gunning for your title, kid, sort of moment. And Shingo has not taken very many losses throughout this tournament, and this was a clean, you know, emphatic, as opposed to like the time when Finjuice beat them and Dave Finlay had all the help in the world from his tag team partner. This was a little different. Like, yeah, there's some shenanigans. Yeah, Okan was there, but Cobb looked strong, looked dominant. He beat this man. I think he's getting a title shot. I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to happen at I've seen people be like, oh, it's going to happen at New Year's Dash because they don't think of Cobb on that level yet. And they think Shingo is because he's been so good. A lot of people think Shingo's higher in the company than he actually is. But if you're paying attention, he's not on.
Right.
He's not a big 4 or big 5 guy, even though people want him to be.
Cobb is slotted on Shingo's level, and I could easily see them doing one of the nights in their title match.
Literally, I'm seeing people be like, oh, this happened at World Tag League, right? Because... Or I'm sorry, what's it called? Road to Tokyo Dome. They think it's going to be one of the big quote unquote Road to Tokyo Dome matches, even though Road to Tokyo Dome never has any big matches.
All right. I mean, there was that Golden Lovers match.
Well, they have big tag team matches,
right.
And what are those matches? They're always previews for the Dome. They don't throw.
They don't do title matches.
They don't do title matches
right before the Dome. Yeah.
There's people who think they're going to do that match. And that will lead to some sort of angle that will set up Shingo's real opponent at Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm like, no, this is it. He's fighting Cobb. Like,
right. I mean,
and the company, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one thing I want to say is a lot of the people that were in the know, a lot of the people that say like Voices of Wrestling, Dave Meltzer, they've all been saying for quite a while now that when Cobb signed, this company had big plans in the works for him. I think this is the evidence of that. And I mean, kudos to those guys. I mean, we weren't the ones who broke that. It was all those different resources.
Right, yeah. So obviously the first stage of that plan was the Empire turning him heel. And then, definitely the next stage here is going to be getting him a big match at the Dome with Shingo. These guys have great chemistry. We've seen what they can do in the G1. We've seen their history in PWG. These guys are going to go out here, have a strong style brawl. And Cobb is probably going to win.
From Reseda to the Tokyo Dome. But yeah, man. Interesting thing. I mean, what have you thought about Sonata in this team throughout the tournament? I mean, I don't really even have any thoughts, honestly. Aside from what I've said on the previous shows, just that I think he works very well with Shingo and feeds off his energy. But I don't see any stories.
Right. Yeah, there was no stories. There was no really like memorable stuff revolving around Sonata. I did think him and Shingo gelled very well together as a team. Like you mentioned last week, Shingo always works super hard, and I feel like that kind of motivated Sonata and made Sonata work super hard.
That's like you and me.
and that's why they end up being the MVP, because Shingo never mails it in, whether it's a tag match, 6-man, Road to, Dominion, whatever it is. Whatever show Shingo's on, whatever match he's in, he's going to work really hard and do his best to have a great matchup here, and that definitely rubbed off on Sonata here. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see these guys, team up every once in a while to be tag challenge contenders while they're kind of in between programs. But yeah, what's happening with Sonata, I don't know. I have some ideas when we look at the final card, but based off of this night, it's like, yeah, what are they doing with Sonata?
I agree. Well, let's move on. We got Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, 10 points. On the 4th, they were defeated by Finjuice, and then on the 6th, they were defeated by the Dangerous Techers, which completely eliminated them. I'll start off. Ishii, Yano, always one of the strongest teams when they are paired together in the tournament. They're kind of the odd couple, except they don't play it up like they're an odd couple. They play it up like they're extremely cohesive, even though it makes no sense whatsoever. But, I mean, I don't have much to say here except for just like Ishii and Yano always are here. They're utility players. They come in when they're needed. And then once the tournament's over, they pretty much go their separate ways, except for the 1 or 2 off pairings that they have throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, always a solid tag team, like you mentioned. Yeah, I really don't have much to add. I mean, definitely some of the better performances of the tournament, especially with Ishii in there. Ishii, again, is a guy like Shingo where they're going to work hard regardless, what place of the card they're on, what type of show it is. They're always going to work really hard. And these 2 matches here against Finjuice and against Dangerous Techers, they were really good matches. And, again, it was one of those situations where you have teams that are working really hard in Finjuice and Dangerous Techers to go against Ishii and Yano, who are working, well, Ishii at least is working really hard. Of course, Yano's doing the Yano.
I do wonder if part of the reason my perception of the tournament not being as good is just because the clap crowds, the environment.
I think that definitely has a lot to do with it. If it's not the Osaka crowd, it can be really hard to get into some of the matches sometimes because the clap crowds are not as excited or motivated. It's quiet, and it's like, man, even previous World Tag Leagues, even though they might not be the greatest thing ever, at least you are getting that crowd interaction, especially the Corkin nights were always those nights where you would get bangers because the crowds would be really into it and the guys felt motivated. And yeah, that definitely, the energy levels for this tournament were definitely lacking.
Yeah, I mean, one thing though, and I mentioned this previously, is like typically we get some really great matches from Ishii and Yano. We didn't necessarily get any really truly great matches, but like you mentioned, they had some of the stronger consistent matches throughout the tournament. I'm just used to getting that 4.25 type style match from them at least once or twice during the tournament. We didn't get that here. But from here, I just assume they're going to go their separate ways like they always do, Right,
yeah, Yano, he has the KOPW to worry about, and Ishii has the Never Six-Man titles to worry about.
I'm hoping they stick to their stipulation where, like, KOPW ends at the end of the year and, like, it has nothing to do with, like, Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah. But, yeah, 2 nights, I don't know, there might be a KOPW matchup.
Well, we got another Chaos team here to talk about, Goto and Yoshihashi. They ended with 10 points, and on the 4th, they defeated Bull Club team of Evil and Yujiro, and then on the 6th, Finjuice defeated them. Very important win, because had Chaos defeated Finjuice, we would have ended up with a 3-way final tie where it would have been Dangerous Techers, GOD, and this Chaos team, and they would have all probably gone to the finals to have a triple threat match. Instead, they lost on the final night in the main event to Finjuice in what was one of the best matches of the tournament, and that knocked them out of contention.
Yeah, Goto and Yoshihashi, very similar to Ishii and Yano. It's that Chaos team, they worked really hard. We've seen the resurgence of Yoshihashi this year, and just based off his performance in the G1, and he's just been really motivated, and him and Goto have gelled really well together. They've been one of the teams in the tournament to watch with just really solid performances night in and night out. And yeah, I really enjoyed the matchup with against Finjuice towards the end there. Like we mentioned earlier on, there's also that kind of story there with Juice and Goto. And also there's a story of Yoshihashi wanting to just continue to succeed. He has these Never Six-Man titles. He's, trying to win a tournament, win his first tournament, get to a final of his first tournament. And so that was kind of a story there. And yeah, solid team throughout the tournament. Came up short here against Finjuice, but really enjoyed some of the stuff they did here.
The one difference, Ishii and Yano have a long history of teaming together. Not to say that Goto and Yoshihashi are strangers, but they haven't teamed, in my estimation, quite as long or as often as Ishii and Yano. But the one difference they do have is that they're tied together as Never Six-Man Openweight Tag Team champions. So they're almost, to me, like more of an official tag team right now for the time being than, say, Ishii and Yano are. And even though we have, like, say, some of the, like, Shingo and Sonata and Ishii and Yano listed above them, I actually question that. I think Goto and Yoshihashi were so close to winning the finals, it really came down to the last second that they might need to be at the top of, the 10-point list guys. Not in terms of performance, but just terms of kayfabe, standings. But like you mentioned, these guys, they were utility players, a lot of the stories kind of have revolved around Yoshihashi, like you mentioned, and it does make me wonder, like, we saw a lot of that the last quarter of this year, a lot in this tournament. Do they have further plans for him going down the road? Are they kind of cashing in on this goodwill that he's accumulated at this point? Possibly. But it's going to be interesting. Obviously, they're not, they're out of the tournament, but they still have 6-man tag team titles to defend with, who are they with, Ishii?
Yep.
Yeah, so them and Ishii, Unfortunately, like for me, I think Ishii's like a wrestler of the year candidate in New Japan. Apparently, a lot of people don't agree. But, I don't think he, it's funny. Royal Rumble comes around. Daniel Bryan can't be in the Royal Rumble. Tokyo Dome comes around. Ishii got to be in that 6-man. Like, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So, but that will be great for Yoshihashi and Goto. Unfortunately, that's usually when people lose those belts.
Right.
So
and
probably about to come off those belts.
And maybe that's the story. Maybe Yoshihashi tries to, successfully defends kind of a big moment for him in the Dome. So we'll see what happens there. Another team that came in here with 10 points is the Empire team of the great Okan and Jeff Kabu on December 4th.
Did you say Jeff Kabu or who?
Jeff Kabu. That's what the announcers say.
They say Kabu?
Jeff Kabu.
I've never noticed that.
So on December 4th, they lost to GOD. And then on December 6th, like we mentioned, they defeated LIJ. I really enjoyed the Empire team here. They didn't have any great matchmaking, blow-away performances, but
they fuck.
Yes, they were really solid. It was really more about establishing them as a team and establishing their characters. We saw Great Okan really trying a lot of different stuff. Also, we saw him change up the attire.
I like his head-arm triangle choke.
Yeah, he's doing the head-arm triangle choke and some other different type of moves that he was doing throughout this tournament. Also, it's probably kind of hard for him to figure out what's working because he's not getting quite the crowd reaction due to the clap crowds, but he was trying some different stuff out. I thought Cobb was great in this heel role. He comes off more menacing. It's more kind of a big bruiser. And so I thought he looked really good here throughout this tournament and just was kind of steamrolling people when he was in there. And it's really kind of what we wanted to see with him prior to joining the Empire. We're starting to see now here in this role.
I'm wondering if someone was rebounding off the ropes, if I could wrap them up in a head-arm triangle choke and then do a reverse Russian leg sweep, almost like a rock bottom. So I hold on to them, drop them down, they take the bump, and then I choke them out.
I think you could probably work it out.
I'm going to talk to Matt, but because I can do it. I mean, I've got a BJJ background, so I know how to do it. I know how to actually do it. So I see the way he's doing it. I don't like that necessarily, but I would love to choke a bitch out with a head arm triangle, And what's great too is someone can sell it where their arm is stiff in the air.
Yeah.
And they go out and they're stiff and they stop it. It'd be cool. Yeah, man. Everything that you said, Okan and Cobb, the Empire, they're trying to establish them as this new force and entity. One thing I noticed was they worked their style of wrestling in these tag matches very different from all the other teams. There are certain tendencies and formulas that are kind of followed in the tag team scene in New Japan, and there's not a lot of room for variance. I mean, and they're good at what they do, but it's the same. It's a lot of the same shit that you see all the time when it comes to tag team wrestling in New Japan. These guys were really kind of facilitating that Southern style, what you kind of see from the North, what you kind of see from FTR. Lots of cutoffs, lots of false tags, lots of heat segments, hot comebacks. Just that stuff's exciting when it's done properly by the right team. And I think that they kind of were tapping into that. Their matches were kept short. That's another thing I noticed. They didn't work too many really, really long matches or anything of that nature. And Cobb, we kind of thought Cobb was coming in to be the pin eater, or whoever it was going to be. Mr. X was going to come in and be the pin eater. We were very wrong. It ended up being, I think, almost exclusively Okan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a majority of their losses, it was all Okan that was eating the pin.
But if you notice, they were all roll-ups.
Right. I think the only one really clean one definitely was the GOD one. Tama Tonga hit that man clean with a gun stun. And got the win over him there.
Well, I mean, what can you do? It's a gun stun. But for the most part, they were pretty protected. I made a prediction during the award show. I said, hey, next year when it comes to Strong Style Wrestler of the Year, I don't know if it's going to be Okan, Cobb, or Ospreay, but the style of those guys and the opportunities they're going to get one of these guys is going to be on the Carl Gotch Awards list. I think we're already seeing the start of it with Cobb. Getting this title opportunity against Shingo is like 1 foot like in the right direction. So, yeah, I like. I don't know how I feel about the Empire overall because so much of it rests and falls on Will Ospreay's shoulders, and they're trying to do this second-rate Bruno Larry feud with him and Okada, and it doesn't work. Although I think the match will probably be great. They're just trying to shoehorn the whole thing together real quick right before the Tokyo Dome. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But long term, a lot of the success of the entire group is going to fall on him because he is the leader. With that being said, I really dig the stuff with, Cobb and Okan that's happened in this tournament. One other thing I want to mention, and I'll give it back to you. Dave Meltzer has been very openly, vocally critical against Okan, and some of his criticisms were warranted. They were some of the same criticisms we had on this show, but some of the things he said are not factual. Like the first one he said was Okan was not over in England, and that's not true. Initially he wasn't, but then when they started to shift his character, have him team with Rampage Brown, go on the undefeated streak, and then allow him to kind of express himself more, he had better matches. He was very popular. He had big reactions, but Dave doesn't watch that stuff, so he doesn't know that. He made, he had an initial, he tuned in initially to form an opinion and then never came back. And then the same thing happened here. Like he saw the Okada match. He didn't like it. He had criticisms. He didn't see the silver lining of the cloud. And he has clearly not watched the World Tag League because we've seen no ratings from the man. And he's just kind of getting secondhand opinions. And like, he's like, oh, this company, Okan, he's a lost cause. He's done. I don't know why they even invested in him. And like, he's missing out because this is going to be one of his worst takes when it comes to New Japan. Just because he's completely in the wrong. Like, the guy's getting reactions.
Dude, how many cosplays have we seen this tour?
Yeah, we're seeing little kids come out with the freaking question mark
mask, yeah.
We're seeing people with the fangs. Like, people like this dude.
There's question mark towels.
Yeah, bro. Like, he's going to be a big star. And we've always known this about Oka. Like, I feel kind of proud because it's like we're at the 3-year anniversary mark, and we're not that far away from when we started this show. We were at that initial Young Lions Cup tournament, Mm-hmm. And do you remember, like, I don't know. I don't want to peel back too much, but like when we were just first starting the show, we weren't sure what we were going to be. We were trying to figure stuff out. And you were kind of like, do we want to watch this like Young Lions Cup? It's like, they're in these small buildings, single cam. And I was like, bro, I was like, let's just watch it. And then we watched it and we're like, this dude Oka is raw.
Yes. Oh man. That was such a great tournament. Yeah.
So we've always known.
Yeah. Even this morning, Dave was like, yeah, Okan's just not charismatic. He just lacks charisma. And
he saw him once and he made an opinion. And
he watched the final match.
Are you serious? And
yeah.
He still thinks that?
Yeah.
He's an idiot. And you know what? I respect Dave Meltzer a lot. And but he doesn't always talk. He's way off base on this one.
Yeah. I don't know what he's watching because Okan comes off a ton of charisma to me, and he has that star presence. And like I mentioned, he's trying things and he's slowly putting together in the ring. And I think his next singles match, it's gonna be raw.
I didn't hear this energy coming from him when it came to Watto. It reminds me of some other things Dave has been inconsistent about lately. Wants to criticize Mike Tyson, but he's not talking about Pat Patterson or Jerry Lawler.
So moving on to the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale and the Crown Jewel Chase Owens, who finished with 6 points.
Oh, okay, one thing. I'm sorry. Before we continue, I want to talk about them, but we need to address this. Last week we talked about, I think it's because the format of the show, we're like kind of skimming through stuff. We never talked about Shingo's getting bloodied up last week.
Yeah.
What was that, the GOD match?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about like how bad he got busted open. We like completely skipped over it. I haven't even listened to last week's show, but I just remembered. I was like, oh, fuck, we didn't say that. So I didn't want anyone to think like we overlooked that. Like, that was pretty brutal. I don't know. I just remembered it.
Yeah, just all this tournament stuff is just kind of blending together.
Well, with tournament stuff, Fale and Owens on December 4th, they lost to Dangerous Techers. No big surprise there. And then on December 6th, they defeated their Bullet Club brethren, Evil and Yujiro Takahashi, 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, so kind of the big kind of thing for them here was that December 6th match against Evil and Yujiro. That was the first meeting of Evil and Fale and Chase, and we got the big two sweet at the beginning. There were no shenanigans like there were in the Guerrillas of Destiny match, so I don't know what that means. Fale and Chase are actually cool with Evil, but we did see this match was pretty much kind of a comedy match. We had, Yujiro opened up, he's like, Chase, PETA is coming. And he tried to get a distraction roll up off of Chase that way. And it's kind of a lot of shenanigans back and forth here until Chase was able to roll up Yujiro at the end there and get the win for the team.
Yeah, this was pretty comedic. You know what? While we're on it, I mean, we're right by Evil and Yujiro. But, Evil and Yujiro didn't do so hot in this tournament, and I think it's because they've got plans for Evil as a singles, so they're just kind of killing time. So I wasn't too surprised to see, Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens pick up the win there, kind of make them have a little bit more respectable point basis. I don't know if I said this last week, but one thing I have loved is their backstage segments, and for all the flack we give Fale, I always love Fale's segments in the back.
Yeah, his promos are always hilarious.
People don't watch the promos enough, so they don't always love that aspect of him, and then they have to sit through his matches, and they're not always great. But, this man be in the back talking about, wanting to restart the count. Recount the points. I think I did say it last week, but I'm still, popped by it. I just fucking love it. But yeah, I don't have much more to say. I mean, Fale and Owens, they're here most years. They're the tag team together. They kind of have a little bit of a knockoff Shawn and Diesel vibe to them. They do the jump up too sweet, whatever. But their matches are not good, but they're not bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much more. They're entertaining at the very least. And one thing, Fale, incredible condition compared to how he's looked the last couple of years. He really got in great shape, comparatively speaking, for a guy his size. And he has been noticeably quicker in the ring.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and one other thing, I don't think we really talked about it. One thing I like about Chase's entrance is when he does the little gunshot thing and you hear the sound effects.
Does he do that?
Yeah.
I think I've I either don't pay attention or I fast forward. I don't know. I've also noticed that if I'm casting from my iPad, it's much easier for me to control the stuff where I can fast forward and rewind. But if I cast from my Samsung, my Galaxy, I cannot do shit. I can't go backwards or forwards. It's just I'm on one setting and I can pause it or play it and that's it. They need to fix this. Danny, talk to them.
Well, speaking of being stuck on one setting, Evil and Yujiro, like you mentioned, also at 6 points on December 4th, they lost to Goto and Yoshihashi, and then we mentioned on the 6th, they lost to Fale and Owens. First week kind of came out hot. They're at the top of the leaderboard, and ever since then, they've just been eating losses, mainly Yujiro. It's very obvious, like you mentioned, Evil, there's plans for Evil coming off of that big, IWGP title push this summer. And there's not plans for Yujiro, and there's not plans for them as a team. So it made a ton of sense there for them to, eat a bunch of losses and for Yujiro to eat the pins and obviously to protect Evil.
Yeah. One thing with on that December 6th match between the two Bullet Club teams, I didn't really love it. It was funny, but the great thing that added so much to it was Gino Gambino's commentary was just so great.
Yeah.
He's talking about the man. He's like, he's got a measuring wire for the tag ropes. And he's like, that's a garrote wire. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, it's a measuring wire. And Chris is like, I'm pretty sure it's a garrote wire. He's like, Chris, when you've been in the business as long as I have. And then
They removed the turnbuckle pads. He's like, great, Dick Togo can put them back on now.
He's like, oh, that's great. And they're like, how's that great? He's like, well, now Dick can put it back together. Or like, Dick Togo like tripped someone with the grope wire while they're running, and he was like, good work, Dick. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, it's like, they're like, what war has Fale been in? The war of New Japan.
Yeah, that stuff's so funny, man. So let's talk about Tanahashi and Toa Henare. They're at the bottom of the board. We're at the end of the World Tag League. They got 1 win, 2 points. They lost on the 4th to Sonata and Shingo, and then they lost on the 6th to GOD to ensure GOD getting into the finals.
Yeah, I mean, that 4th matchup, that main event with LIJ was a really, really good main event. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, there was a disappointment, like we mentioned, of Tanahashi not pinning Shingo set up another title match, but it was still a really good matchup, and Shingo and Henare had some really great chemistry going there. And then we mentioned the upset on the 6th there of Tanahashi tapping out 3 minutes 55 seconds against Tama Tonga there in that match on the 6th. And yeah, I don't know
what that meant.
Yeah, it just leaves a lot of questions on what's next.
It really does, because it makes me wonder, like, is that, I mean, that booking decision was, and you know what else? I've barely heard anyone talk about it. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm not, like, as much in the zeitgeist as other people, but, like, I haven't heard any buzz about Tama. I mean, I looked on the Reddit. I didn't see anyone talk about it, really. I saw the tweet Tama put out, but that's about it. Like, you would think that a moment like that would get a lot more impact, but I don't know. The big question is, what is Tanahashi doing at the Dome? We don't know. We've got, 4 shows for them to kind of figure it out, basically, like some Road 2 shows and a final. Maybe we'll find something at the final, but, like, I'm tired of predicting
right.
that, this is when they're going to figure out what's going on with Tanahashi. Like, all year, Dave Meltzer has been, I know I'm talking a lot about Dave, but, like, I've heard him be like, the way they're booking Tanahashi is criminal, and I've thought, Dave's kind of off base here, Guy was the MVP of the B block. He's had a fantastic tag team run. They're kind of using him in the spot that they need to use him in, and, they're going to have something for him. It's Tanahashi. It's the Dome.
Right.
But now I'm getting nervous. And now I'm like, I got to tell you, I do think that if they don't have something for Tanahashi at the Dome this year, it is criminal, and that's a mishandling of the book. And, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I know people don't want to hear this if you're listening, and there's a lot of challenges going up against them, and they were kind of handicapped just by the nature of how they book in New Japan already. But, like, Gato's not the Booker of the Year this year. For the first time in, 7 or 8 years, he's not the Booker of the Year. Tony Khan is the Booker of the Year. And I don't like saying that. And you know what? I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of buzz about Noah. I don't even know how good the booking is in Noah, but, like, maybe whoever's got the book over there is I don't know. But it would be highly questionable if Tanahashi doesn't have something of prominence going into that Dome. And right now he doesn't. And I'm worried.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried too, especially just looking like what's the matchup that he has on the final night, which we'll talk about here in a second. It's like, what are they doing? And then there's Road Tokyo Dome, but usually Road Tokyo Dome, it's like you kind of already know what the match is going to be, and those are just more preview matches. So to set up an angle there, it's like it seems really last minute, really rushed, and I'm just like, man, this is Tanahashi. He should be having a big money program. I get he doesn't have to be in the main event.
No.
He doesn't have to be in a title match. But
if he ends up in that fucking gauntlet, if he ends up in that 6-man gauntlet, I'm going to be heated.
Yeah, that is definitely, that is booking malpractice there. And yeah, I'm hoping, something comes out here.
The real story of this team throughout the tournament, though, and we'll move on, Toa Henare. I mean, he's been kind of shouldering most of the in-ring work for the team. This time of year is kind of an off period for Tanahashi when he's in these tournaments, and that remain to be the case here. But Toa Henare looked so sharp, so invigorated. There's no reason that a team that got booked this low, where he should have put forth as much effort. He's also wrestling like, you know what? He's always had a lot of intensity, but he's also on that list of like, I'm not going back.
I'm not going back to the island.
He worked some shows, and I saw on Cage Match, he worked a couple shows in New Zealand that like no one can find. And I was like, this man was like, never again. Like, this man came in with all the Muay Thai knees, all the Muay Thai elbows, doing roundhouse kicks, flying knees. Like, he's looked really awesome throughout the tournament, and I want to be excited, but history has told me I don't have a reason to be excited for him, just because they've never given him the push. The biggest push he ever had was a mini feud with Ishii once 2 or 3 years ago. At this point, like 3 years ago. So basically, I would love for them to do something with him going forward. But he looked great in the tournament for what it's worth.
Yeah, definitely one of the standouts there. Like you mentioned, with them being at the bottom of the block, not a ton of main events. He had that one main event with LIJ. It's like he didn't really have to work as hard as he did, but
that match was awesome.
But he did every night. Went out there, gave it his all, really impressed. He's almost like a Doki. They're these bottom of the block roles, but they're working really hard, and they're one of the kind of standouts throughout the whole tournament.
Well, we got a question regarding Henare. He said, what are your thoughts on what is next for Toa Henare? I'm pretty impressed with how sharp he comes across since returning. I could see him doing great things with Suzuki, Shingo, Ishii, Goto, Cobb, and other guys with that kind of vibe.
Yeah, what's next? That's the question. I think we always kind of ask ourselves that question, what is next with Toa Henare? Because, like you mentioned, he hits that rivalry with Ishii. They kind of keep putting him in certain scenarios where it's like, okay, it feels like he's ready to come back from this big push. And it felt like the pandemic would have been a great time of him being gone for so long to kind of come back, make a splash, make an impact, and kind of get on the winning roll. But like you mentioned earlier, it was like he was frozen in time. And when he came back, they just hit the unpause button, and he was picked up right where he left off, kind of in that almost in a semi-young lion role where he's eating all these pinfalls. And so what's next? I would love to see him kind of be a feature in the Never division and wrestle some of these guys that you mentioned here, Rainbow and Slam Pig, the Suzuki's, the Shingos, the Ishis, Goto, Cobbs, and have some rivalries there. But I don't know what they need to do, but something needs to happen where he gets off of this level where he's just constantly jobbing and he's getting some wins.
I agree. Yeah, I think he's so well suited for the Never division. I'm hoping that they go that way with him going forward. I don't know that will be the case, but it would be awesome. It was funny when you talked about him being frozen and then him hitting the unpause button. It kind of reminded me of like Austin Powers. This man stuck in another era.
Yeah.
Viking Pain asked us, are you guys ready to see Tanahashi wrestle in the Never Six-Man Openweight Never Six-Man Openweight Tag Team Gauntlet at Wrestle Kingdom 15 with his dream team of Honma and Henare? God, so there's other people who are already... I haven't looked at the questions, probably obviously you put... If you guys don't know, Jeremy puts the rundown together. Jeremy does everything. I just come in and talk and drink. So yeah, it's funny. We're kind of echoing some of the same sentiments of our listeners.
Yeah, I am not ready for Tanahashi to be in the Never Six-Man Openweight Gauntlet. This man needs to have a singles match against somebody and be highlighted like he deserves to be highlighted. It really will be like a black eye on the booking if it's like him, Henare, and Wato in like the gauntlet.
Well, probably about 3 years ago, we had another show on this station with people that I like and respect a lot. Good friends of ours, no longer on the network. I won't name names, but they were criticizing Tanahashi, saying he needed to be moved down. That old argument, body's broken down, he's old, he's been here forever, let's get some young blood in here. And then I remember refuting them and being like, yo, he's the same. Back then, I was like, he's the same age at that moment as Ric Flair was in 89 when he had like a career best year, you know? And I remember thinking like, that's so ludicrous because he's got so much more in the tank. And then like a year or two later, he's headlining against Kenny Omega, and, you know, he had that incredible G1 and then the career renaissance, and then he beat Kenny Omega. It was like this awesome story. So I kind of felt vindicated when that happened, but that wasn't that long ago. It might seem like it, but if you think about it, I mean, this guy headlined Wrestle Kingdom 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then what did he do last year? He was
Jericho.
Yeah, he was in there with Jericho. So it's like, I know some people might think like, oh, he's ready for dad status. They've been telling us he's old all year, but look at his G1. I mean, he carried the B block on his shoulders. No matter what, you know, diehard Naito fans want to tell you, the reality, he was the MVP of that block.
Do you think this is a Liger scenario happening here? We seen with Liger when he was kind of winding down.
Pushing himself down?
Yeah. We know Liger kind of had influence on his booking, and he got to the point in his career where he just wanted to put people over. And
I don't think so, because Liger really kind of like, I mean, it started earlier than this, but like, I'm thinking of like when he was clearly like, okay, I'm like gonna go to the background. It was like 2001, 2002. And he kept, you know, wrestling in a pretty prominent role for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's quite that. I mean, if it could be, I don't have the book, and I don't work for New Japan, so I don't know for sure. But I think it would be asinine to think that you can go from being the headline and then semi-headline of Wrestle Kingdom to the next year being in the 6-man tag when you're as important as Tanahashi. I know you got to circulate guys, give people opportunities, but it's fucking Tanahashi, you know? That'd be like saying like John Cena shouldn't have a prominent role on Wrestle Kingdom or WrestleMania. Like, it's like, no, he's John Cena. He's a fucking draw. He's a proven commodity draw. Like, that's what Tanahashi is too. I'm not saying he needs to be in the semi-main event, but I am saying he needs to have a program against somebody. It doesn't even have to be good. I'm not even advocating he has a good opponent. I'm saying it just needs to be something that is marketable and that matters. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And they haven't done it. I mean, had a long time to try to build something, and we don't have anything. So I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, we'll get some answers this Friday on the final show in the 6-man tag that he's in, which we'll get to in a second. So we'll see there.
Maybe he'll wrestle Jay White. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
So one thing we have to talk about from these past few nights was on December 5th, we had the return of Naito and Ibushi on the tour. On December 5th, there was it was LIJ, Sonata, Shingo, and Naito. They defeated the team of Kota Ibushi, Satoshi Kojima, and Tomioka Hanma. Did you have any thoughts on the interactions with Naito and Ibushi that night?
Not really. Did you? I mean, I didn't find any of it to be very interesting. It felt like we talked about unfreezing things. It felt like they went back to 2020. Is that the last time they wrestled in the Garden?
2019.
Oh, it was 2019, wasn't it?
We're in 2020 right now.
Okay, my bad. It felt like we went back to 2019, unfroze everything, and they were right back in that 3-match series. Like,
yeah,
which never was really a heated feud. It was always,
I want to drop you on your neck.
Yeah, it was a professional, you know, competitive natured feud between them two, and that's kind of what I got out of this one. There were, you know,
yeah. Well, I mean, I was just happy to see that the chemistry was still there.
Yes.
So it gives me hope that they're going to have a banger at the Dome.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about. Listen, I know that, you know, when it comes to in-ring work, Naito didn't necessarily have quote-unquote the best year, but I mean, they weren't putting him in there with the guys to do it, you know? If you put Naito in that A block, we would be talking about him for sure. We'd be like, he's a for sure candidate for Wrestler of the Year. you know? Mm-hmm. But instead they gave him Evil 4 times. It's different, you know?
Yeah.
And we saw what he could do against Tanahashi. There's no way him and Ibushi have I've never seen him and Ibushi have a bad match.
Yeah.
Ever.
And then,
I am worried about him and Jay White, but I'm not worried about him and Ibushi.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that based off some of the stuff we saw in this multi-man tag here. Chemistry's still there, and so I'm really looking forward to that matchup at the Dome. We had a question here from Brady User Germanus. It's this question: is there any chance that either God or El Desperado win their respective finals? It would seem that either of these victories would set up heel versus heel matches for the Dome. I don't remember too many of those matches on January 4th.
I mean, it's the undercard, so anything can happen. I mean, it's not really that important. I don't think Desperado. I feel very confident. In fact, I would put hard money on it that Desperado is not winning. I could be wrong because, like you mentioned, there's a lot of they could do a multi-man match or something like that. But I feel very confident they're not doing Ishimori against Desperado at the Dome with Hiromu left out in the cold. It's not happening.
Right. I mean, if Despi wins, Hiromu can pull out the "Hey, I pinned Taiji" in the tournament,
right,
to get the three-way going there. With God, like we've been saying forever now, we feel like they're going to win. I do think what's going to happen is I think there is going to be a screwy finish there. Similar to the tag title match in Atlanta where FinJuice is about to win. Something happens, maybe Jado gets involved, and God cheats. And because FinJuice gets cheated, the IWGP committee throws them in the title match, and it's God versus Techers versus FinJuice at the Dome.
Who's on the IWGP committee?
I don't know.
I've never heard of the IWGP committee ever actually making any official decisions. It's always just
because they like to be in the background.
They're the invisible hand.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to be Harold May out in front, creating promo packages, running down to the aisle.
That's not how it works in New Japan. Okay, Jeremy, you're being a noob here. The way it works in New Japan is you walk down to the ring and you say, I want a challenge, and then you just get it.
Well, then the IWGP, they sanction that challenge. they approve it.
No, they don't.
It makes the job easy for them. They don't have to make challengers. They let people come out, do the challenge. Like, oh, great. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, we'll sign that match off.
We didn't have anything booked for that date, so that works out perfect.
Exactly.
But yeah, GOD's for sure winning. I think the fact that you think they're cheating to win is I don't know where you came up with that. That's crazy. A Bullet Club team, God with Master Heater. That's crazy.
Yeah, with the good bad guy.
Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, I feel very confident GOD's winning. I mean, very, very, very confident. So, Tomohiro Ishii asked us a question. I love this guy's name or her name because it does say she in the name, so it might be a female. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or it might be some other pronoun. I don't know. However they.
Right. We don't want to discriminate.
No. Which match from each tournament was your favorite? Who was the most improved from this tour? And who was the MVP of this tour?
For me, my favorite match of the tournament for each tournament. So from the junior tournament.
Favorite match.
So from the junior side, it's going to be Hiromu and Robbie Eagles. From the tag team side,
the tag team one's easy for me. I mean, very easy. There was nothing else that touched it. It was Shingo and Sonata against Dangerous Tekkers.
Yeah. I was trying to think back if there's any of the chaos matches with against LIJ or Tekkers that might have been for me, but yeah, it's probably Dangerous Tekkers and Los Ingobernables de Japón.
My favorite match of the junior side was Doki and Hiromu. I acknowledge it wasn't the best match of the tournament, and I think that those are clear distinctions you need to make. But it was my favorite match of the tournament. I loved that match. I thought it was so fucking awesome. Most improved from the tours gotta be Doki.
Yeah, hands down. Just great performances night after night, and just literally one of the highlights. If you do the star rating averages on Grapple, he's in the top half.
Yeah,
of performers.
I mean, Show's not far. I mean, Show's got an argument. Despi's got an argument. Some of the tag teams have arguments.
I think Cobb has an argument.
Cobb, yeah. But I mean, for me, it's Doki. MVP of the tour. Hiromu's the clear-cut MVP. But if you were going to go tag, I would go Shingo Sonata.
Yeah.
Which, like, is surprising because I fully intended to give it to Dangerous Tekkers again for, the third year in a row?
Yeah.
But I think they got just barely passed by Shingo and Sonata this time around.
Question from Ready Viking Pain. Who has been a standout for Best of Super Junior and World Tag League for you guys, and who has been a disappointment?
Well, one standout for me, I mean, we mentioned Doki. Sho's been a huge standout for me for the Super Juniors. And for the World Tag League, I think, like we mentioned, Sho Sonata, I think Empire really stood out quite a bit. Yoshihashi. But as far as a disappointment, GOD, huge disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Taguchi, definitely. Ishimori, it's going to be a little controversial because he definitely had some really good performances, but he had so many semi-lackluster performances that he's got to be a big disappointment in my book.
Wato, I was hoping that he would use this tournament to kind of break out.
Wato for sure. Also, when we talk about most improved, definitely Hinare.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in there too.
Next series of question here from Ready User Dom Homie 101. First, he asked, with reports of Dragon Lee, a.k.a. Ryu Lee, supposedly being this year's Best of Super Junior, do you guys think we would have gotten Hiromu versus Lee instead of Hiromu versus El Desperado as the main event at Budokan Hall?
I don't know. A lot of the storyline stuff that we've seen throughout the year fits more perfectly with this final being the case, but I mean, how could you have gone wrong with a Hiromu Ryu Lee final?
Right. Like, the story writes itself. There's so much rich history there and great matches. Like, that could have easily just been another chapter in their feud.
Bro, remember how good Desperado and Ryu Lee was from a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Can you imagine we got that again? Ugh. They were talking about doing a mask versus mask match a couple years ago.
Yeah, they were like building that.
Never happened. Fuck. Dom Homie 101 asked, so what's next for guys like Robbie Eagles, Sho, Master Wato, Doki? Thoughts on Yuya Uemura? What's his ceiling? When will he go on excursions? That's a lot he just asked us.
Yeah. So real quick on Uemura, as far as him going on excursion, obviously we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
That don't mean nothing. I choose not to live in fear, Jeremy. So I'm not going to wear my mask anymore.
I'll sleep with the pandemic. I don't know. I mean, they could send him over to the LA dojo, have him work strong. I don't know if they want him to do that. But as far as going to Mexico, nobody's going to Mexico anytime soon. I don't think anybody's going to the UK anytime soon. So his only hope of some kind of excursion would be an LA dojo.
But go to New Zealand, work with Fale.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't know when he's going to go on an excursion. If he is going to go on an excursion, I mean, they could put a Carl Fredericks with him and just have him graduate. What's his ceiling? He has a ton of potential.
I mean, I think his ceiling is top star of the company, ace of the company, world champion. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. This is not a prediction, but when you talk about ceiling, I don't see why not right now.
Right. He has all the potential to be that. I mean, obviously time will tell what will happen. As far as what's next for guys like Eagles, Sho, Wato, Doki, I do think with the junior tag division in, desperation, I need a team. I do think you can put Eagles and Sho together as a team. You can put Wato and Taguchi together as a team, and then Doki, he could fill in for Kanemaru and be Desperado's partner. So all those guys, like we mentioned, with the junior division, if you're not in the title match, then you're probably in the junior tag match or division,
or you're doing prelim.
Random faction versus faction multi-mans.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I can see all of these guys going into the junior tag division, especially at the Dome. I'm sure that they'll want to do a junior tag title match.
I wish they would do more like junior only style cards throughout the year. I don't see why they couldn't do that from time to time. they used to have a lot of like produce type shows throughout the year in New Japan back, especially in like the mid 2000s. I think of like Lock Up and stuff like that. I think it would just be cool every now and again to have like a junior showcase show, why not? Because why not? Because those guys are so good. It would just be a good idea, I think, every now and again to do that.
Yeah, I would be down for that. So Donovan also asked, so if teams like Finjuice, Goto and Yoshihashi, GOD, Dangerous Tekkers, Sonata and Shingo, Cobb and Okan, Hanare Tanahashi, why can't NJPW put steam behind these heavyweight tag teams outside of Tag League?
Well, most of these tag teams, just to be clear, they're not tag teams. Finjuice is a tag team, GOD is a tag team, and Dangerous Tekkers is a tag team. The rest of these teams are kind of just thrown together because they operate within factions, and that's about it. And the reality is the booking is very rudimented and formulaic in its layout, we used to get, it's funny, we don't get these questions anymore. When we first started, we used to get a lot of questions. What do you think is going to be the Dominion? What do you predict for Dominion next year? What do you predict for Wrestle Kingdom next year? And we stopped getting those questions. I think it's because we buried the people who were like, these are stupid questions. But, we could kind of give you an idea of what is going to happen because it's like, this point of the year, this is happening, this tournament, and then this show, and then this tournament, and then this show, and then we're going to go through this series. So, it is hard for them to. I think there's room for them to focus more on the tag team division. Yes, but that would mean they need to actually have some seriously formed tag teams, not just guys that are thrown together. Although there's nothing wrong with that from time to time, but actually commit to certain teams and then have them go on lengthy booking. But the problem is like most of these guys, once this is broken up, they're just going to go back to what they were doing.
Right, like we mentioned, like the core three of the tag division right now is Finjuice, GOD, Dangerous Tekkers. It's probably going to be those three teams as a triple threat at the Tokyo Dome, and then maybe you'll have like Finjuice win again, and it'll probably be Finjuice and GOD continuing to rival, and then you throw Dangerous Tekkers back in, and so it's going to be that loop we saw, like we see all the time. Like when we started this show, it was Killer Elite Squad, GOD, and War Machine. That were the three teams that you kind of bounce in between. And so that's just kind of the whole pattern that we get into, and that's just because based off how Gato has booked tag teams, and obviously there's a lot more emphasis on singles wrestling.
On singles. The emphasis is on the singles. It's about building up singles stars, singles feuds, and that really is what drives most of the business in the company. Now, one other thing to think about is if they decided to focus more on tag teams, it would come at the sacrifice of other people working on the card, because most of the undercards, while they do from time to time have a tag team match here or there, most of them are 6-mans, 8-mans, 10-mans. That means a lot of people getting paychecks working dates on the card. If you get rid of one of those, say, 8-man tags, you're taking paydays away from 4 guys. Now, could that be beneficial for everybody all around long term, based on business, based on things like that? Maybe. But I don't know how the boys would feel about that. I don't know if like Gato and, Bushiroad like all feel like it would be that much more beneficial. And he's just not inclined. He just doesn't like tag team wrestling. He never even, and it's funny because he is a tag team wrestler.
Right.
But his booking philosophies and his influences, he doesn't come from a background that focuses on tag teams. It's all about what drives business, and that's always been singles. Exactly. For them anyways.
Yeah. So moving on to a question from Reddit user PSAN91 says, I really enjoyed the Best Super Junior / World Tag League final day and found that it flew by watching it live, especially compared to the first night, which dragged at times. My question is about what sort of storyline and or Wrestle Kingdom implications do you see them looking for at the undercard for Best of Super Junior World Tag League Finals on Friday? So I think to appropriately answer that question, let's take a look at the card.
Yeah. So we've got Robbie Eagles, Show, and this is the first time I'm looking at it. So I didn't even know what they were doing for the finals until now live on the show. Show, Yano, and Eagles against Ishimori, Chase Owens, and Bad Luck Fale. Second match of the night, Hanare, Tanahashi, and Okada. Wow. Versus Jeff Cobb, Great O'Khan, and Will Ospreay. That makes sense. Sonata and Shingo against Yujiro and Evil. Fourth match of the night, Master Wato and Ibushi versus Bushi and Naito. Fifth match of the night, main event number 1, World Tag League Finals, Finn Juice against GOD. And then main event number 2, Hiromu against Desperado.
Yeah, so as far as Wrestle Kingdom implications,
I don't see any.
I mean, obviously the main events also are going to determine the junior title match and the tag title match. The match with Ibushi and Naito, also that's building to the Ibushi-Naito match. Now, when we look at LIJ versus Bullet Club here, Sonata and Shingo versus Yujiro and Evil, I think there is the potential to either set up a Sonata versus Evil singles match at the Dome or a Shingo versus Evil never title match at the Dome.
Both possibilities. I think Evil Sonata makes the most sense to me, just based on their history, based on everything that's taken place this year. And I think I would have, people don't want to hear this, but they're probably going to have Evil beat Sonata in the Dome.
Right.
Oh my God, Sonata's had such a terrible year. The one thing I think some people might look at is Tanahashi in that tag team match
against the Empire, which leads to the Great O'Khan angle that happened at the beginning of the tour.
So maybe they follow up on that.
Yeah, so maybe you're doing, because obviously you have Okada and Ospreay in there that are kind of facing off, and then you do Tanahashi and O'Khan.
I would be completely fine with Tanahashi and O'Khan. I know a lot of other people, especially casuals. Some of the people that have gone and they've gone to AEW and they don't really follow New Japan, but they still love Tanahashi. They're not going to like this. But I think most of the diehard fan base are going to be fine with it. I'm fine with it because here's the deal is Tanahashi is kind of down on the card. He's going to be working with if this is what ends up happening, his former young boy,
right,
who turned on him and attacked him on the first night of the tour, and someone who needs to be made. And who's better at making people than Hiroshi Tanahashi? Is there a better dance partner that Great O'Khan could ask for in the Dome than Tanahashi? My only hope is that it ends up being better than, say, the Jay White experiment when he first came back.
Right, and I was going to bring that up. And we've seen Tanahashi in this weird role where, he's facing Jay White, who, unlike O'Khan, didn't have any matches ahead of time. First debut was at the Dome, and we also got the promo videos of him, carving, the walls with a knife. And so Tanahashi's been in this position before where he's facing a young lion returning from excursion that they're trying to get over. So I would be fine with him versus O'Khan.
I think him and O'Khan could have a banger, low key.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff I see. I don't see too much. I mean, that's pretty much it.
I feel like Cobb's going to get the fall over Hanare to kind of help push him in the direction to look strong for challenging Shingo.
Most of this is preview stuff that we already knew was going to happen going into the Dome. So, that's pretty much it. So do you want, let's do our quick, review of the World Tag League Super Junior Finals and we kind of did a little bit, but let's talk about it, give our predictions, everything like that.
So for the World Tag League Finals, I think GOD will defeat Finjuice. I feel like like I mentioned earlier, they're going to do it in nefarious means, which will allow Finjuice to still get into the title match at the Dome.
It's got to be GOD. I've listed my reasons earlier in the show. It's their year. They need it for their legacy. And I think that because of the fact that they're the old faithful and they don't I've got feelings that they're going to lift the belts off of Dangerous Tekkers going into the Dome. And that just makes a lot of sense to me. So, and I think that will make them the all-time IWGP heavyweight tag team, record tag team title holders at that point.
Yeah.
I think when it's all said and done, they're going to have the most title reigns, and have held the titles for the longest period of anybody ever.
Are they going to be like one of the quote unquote greatest tag teams to like not have like many great tag team matches?
Yes. I mean, they already are. In a kayfabe sense, they're one of the, I mean, remember they held like the Ring of Honor, the Never Six Man, and the heavyweight titles simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. And you know what was funny was like they were the tag team of the year last year. They won our tag team of the year awards last year, and it was for good reason because they were like kind of awesome that previous year, but
yeah,
this year not so much.
The main event number 2, Best Super Junior Finals, Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado. I'm still going with my original pick of Hiromu winning it all.
They did a single block tournament earlier this year where Hiromu and Bushi were beaten on back-to-back nights by Desperado and Kanemaru. And I'm wondering if they're trying to kind of like play up on that, like, because it's another single block tournament. Hiromu, like everything you've alluded to, all the troubles he's had with Desperado, not only as a young lion where he was defeated so many numerous times, but also since his return from Excursion, where I think he's only, I haven't looked, but I think he's only beaten Desperado one time, and it was when he was the champion defending after the Super Juniors. I think every Super Juniors match they've had prior to this, he's lost to Desperado. So, but I think it's very clear that, I hated when they did that booking, when they had Suzuki-gun beat LIJ back-to-back both nights. That I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
So if they do it again, in my opinion, I think that's terrible booking. And I think that the dead giveaway is Desperado cheated to beat Hiromu in a fantastic match early on. And Booking 101 tells you, like, the young, fiery babyface is going to get his comeuppance. And what better way to do it than in, the Budokan, which is, in a tournament final, and it's going to lead to a title shot. And, I mean, I don't see them putting a lot of... Let's just talk about from a faith standpoint. Do they have faith in... Desperado has never won the title. He's never won a tournament. This is the biggest match of his entire career. So this is a big deal. This is them pushing him for real. But and it is going to lift him to a new level. But do I think that this company has faith in him and Ishimori to go out there and have like a really great Wrestle Kingdom match? No. Could they? Sure. But the deal is Hiromu's a big star. We've been saying this every episode since this all started. What do you do with Hiromu? If he's not winning it, what do you do? And there's not enough time for them to figure that out.
If Despi wins, then they have to pull out the Hiromu beat Taiji card, and it's a 3-way.
They got to do something. So it's very clear, in my opinion, Hiromu's winning, and that's the deal.
Yep.
Do you want to give me predictions for these undercard matches? Any final thoughts? No?
I think that...
I think the Ishimori team on the first show of the first match of the night, very clearly Ishimori's team's going to win, probably, in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah.
Chase Owens is the lowest guy on the totem pole, to me, I think, in that matchup.
Could be, but I mean, you've got 2 juniors in Yano. Those are all viable pin eaters.
Right. And then
you got Fale, and you got Ishimori, who is the junior champion. And I think the junior champion has to win on the same night that his challenger is going to be in the main event.
Unless they try to use that to shoehorn one of those guys into a title match at the Dome.
Honestly, I think we're overthinking it. I think they're just going to do Ishimori and Takahashi again.
Okay.
I that's my opinion. I just think they're just... I've considered those options. I thought they were viable, but now, with how little time there is between now and then, I think they're just going to do it.
Yeah, I think, the Taiji team does make the most sense, but for some reason, I don't know. I just feel like I think the Chaos team is going to pull up upset.
Ishimori is going to tap out Eagles.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Either that or Fale is going to fall on Yano or some shit. Second match of the night, I've got the Empire winning that.
Yeah, I got Cobb pinning Hanare.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. third match of the night, I think Evil and Yujiro probably beat Sonata Shingo.
Yeah, I think Evil is going to pin whoever he's going to fight at the Dome. He's going to pin Sonata or Shingo.
Also, I mean, we might be a little off base there. I mean, Yujiro is the pin eater, very obviously. I think we're looking to set something up for the Dome. Yujiro could easily lose.
And then still set up the Dome.
Still set up something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's always an opportunity. But I think we'll be a little risky here and say Evil. And then the fourth match leading into the main events, Wato and Ibushi versus Bushi and Naito. I mean, it's kind of a wash. I mean, you got Wato or Bushi losing there.
I think Naito's going to Destino Wato.
Okay, and Ibushi's going to hit a
Kamigoye.
Phoenix splash on Bushi. He's going to hit him with the Phoenix Plex to win. So let's talk about the show that I think we're very excited for. You know, it's coming up on December 12th. What is this? One day after the World Tag League Super Junior Finals. I believe this is going to be live, right?
Yes, live one-day tournament. The Super J Cup is back. So let's go over this card and talk about what we think is going to go down here. So we have the Young Lion, Clark Connors, taking on Impact's Chris Bay. We have ACH taking on the great TJP. We have Ray Horace from Ring of Honor taking on GCW's Blake Christian. We have last year's Super J Cup winner, El Phantasmo, taking on Leo Rush. And obviously that will lead into semifinals. And then before the finals, we will have a tag matchup. We will have the return of Young Lion Ren Narita teaming up with the Alpha Wolf, Carl Fredericks, to take on the Bullet Club team of Hikuleo and Kenta. So, young boy, let's start with the Super J Cup matches. So, who do you got? What are your predictions here?
So, I was kind of thinking maybe you and I would go through it together and maybe we could come up with a collective prediction. I'm sure our ideas are not too far off.
Okay, so let's start with
because the first and the second match of the night, that's one side of the bracket, and then the third and fourth, that's the other side, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, let's start with Clark Connors and Chris Bay. I'm thinking Chris Bay beats Clark Connors.
I agree.
That's a match I'm very excited for, and I think some New Japan purists probably think, well, Clark Connors should beat him. He's an outsider from Impact. But I think, who knows what's going on with Impact and New Japan anymore. But when this all started, it was like, oh, this is a sign of goodwill. Impact's working with New Japan. Well, possibly.
Right. I don't think Don Callis and Scott D'Amore are sending over their former X Division champion
for no reason
to lose to a Young Lion in the opening round.
That's my exact thought. I think Chris Bay has no shot of going to a finals here, but I think he's going to look good and get at least two matches, worth of work in. And so I think he has to beat Clark Connors. And this is a great opportunity for Clark Connors, who is still, quote unquote, a young lion. Chris Bay is really good. So
yeah,
although, I think it depends on your school of thought. I think if you're like a fundamentalist, you probably think Clark Connors is better. And I think maybe I feel that way, but as far as like a entertaining performer goes, some of the more flair, some of the more high flying, things like that, Chris Bay is very good. Very, he's experienced too.
So then the winner of that will face the winner of ACH and the great TJP. So,
well, the interesting thing on my side is I believe whoever wins this match may be winning the tournament. Well, no, will definitely be going to the finals at the very least, but has an outside chance of winning it. So this is a very important match, and I think it's a 50-50.
Yeah, this is a toss-up because honestly TJP that has been there a little bit longer, but since ACH has come, been released from WWE, they've been using him a lot on Strong, and it's one of these things where like both guys are used very regularly on Strong. They both haven't really been pushed super hard. They're both on the same level.
If it was me, I'm going with ACH.
if it was me as well, I would go with ACH, and I like the idea of an ACH Chris Bay matchup there in the semifinals.
Oh, do you?
Us.
I would have no problem with the TJP Chris Bay match as well, but ACH right now is just, he's so on fire on the indies. I mean, this guy is killing it, and I think 2021 is going to be his year. Even if it's not for the rest of us, it's going to be for him. And I think ACH is going to get past TJP. That's my prediction. And I think it's yours too.
Yep. So what we have, we have Chris Bay and ACH in one of the semifinals. So then we have Ray Horus and Blake Christian.
I liked your accent there. It's very good. Ray Horus, Blake Christian is also, in my opinion, kind of a toss-up.
I'm leaning towards Blake Christian just because he's been featured more on the program. It's the first time that they're bringing in Ray Horus onto New Japan programming.
All right. And he's a Ring of Honor representative.
Yeah, 1/3 of the ROH 6-man championships.
Well, I initially was predicting Phantasmo to win this whole thing. And so one thing I just had a problem with is like, he beats a black guy, then he beats a Mexican guy, then he probably beats another black guy in the finals. I don't like that. And then I was like, it's lucky he's from Canada. He kind of gets the Canada pass, but I was like, with the way things are going in this country, I don't know. We need to heal. No, I was just joking. I told that joke to Rich though, and he popped over there. So, Ray Horus, Blake Christian. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think Blake Christian's very good. I think Ray Horus is much better than Blake Christian at this point.
I agree.
But you brought up some really great points about like Ray Horus not being super exposed, to the New Japan audience so far. I mean, it's his first match with them, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going Blake Christian.
I'll pretty much ride with you because that makes sense to me. But either way, I got to tell you, I think whoever goes is going to get I think it's similar to Chris Bay. I think they're getting eliminated second round. Right. So I think it's a little bit inconsequential. One thing I will say, though, is it would be a really great opportunity for either one of these guys at this stage in their career to get that second opportunity. I think it would mean a little bit more to Blake Christian, but Ray Horus is kind of an overlooked commodity. He sort of needs that exposure as well. Mm-hmm. So I think I would look for both of those guys to wrestle like I'm not going back as well. But yeah, I think either way, either one of them's losing.
And then we have ELP and the man of the hour, I think he's 24 now, the 24-year-old piece of gold, Lio Rush. Very excited to see Lio Rush here in New Japan. I love the little promo video that they did for him on Twitter. He's been on fire since being released from WWE. Have a lot of good stuff on the indies. And I think this could be a very entertaining matchup here for the end of the first round.
Yeah, I thought that the promo video that they did for him leading into this, very interesting. Quick rundown on that, because I guess we should discuss it just very briefly, is like it's extremely cinematic. He's being interrogated by these police, and they're like trying to figure out what happened on. Is the date that they mentioned, is that the date when everyone got laid off at WWE?
I don't remember the date they said.
That's what I was thinking they were alluding to. And then they kept like doing these, cutbacks or like flashbacks to him being in the jail cell while everyone's running around and there's red lights and clearly something's going on. And then this Asian man shows up and like, he's good to go. He's out. And like the interrogator's like, what? And like, it's just all very like cinematic. And then
it reminded me a lot of Mox's, the first promo Mox did where he broke out the jail.
Oh, I didn't think of that. My girlfriend kind of like mentioned that they were similar in nature. So I guess that's probably what she was thinking too. But I was like, there's clearly a theme there. Like he was in jail. Everyone was running around. It was crazy, probably when everyone was getting laid off. And then he gets released. And then this Asian man, who I think represents New Japan, like shows up and he's like, and it's not, when I say Asian man, I'm not talking about like an ancient like Sifu, like what they're doing on NXT. Like this cool ass fucking like someone from, it reminded me of like Han Lu from like Fast and Furious or some shit.
An IWGP committee member.
He seemed like a Yakuza guy or like some compromised, like, you know, dirty cop or some shit. Like it was like real gritty. Like it was like it was cool. And then they like, he tries to talk to them, like, get dressed, and they throw him like these cool like threads, and then he like walks into this gym, like they tell him to train, and then he's like doing stuff, and then he's the Moth, you know. It was cool. Not as cool as what Stroke Daddy's putting out there, but it's pretty good.
Do you think there's any chance at all at the Man of the Hour, the Moth, can he pull an upset over the Headbanger?
I would put it at less than 5%. My thinking here is, I don't think Leo Rush is signed. Whether he continues to work with New Japan or not remains to be seen. I think there's a good chance he does continue to work with them. This kind of reminds me of the first round match last year between Will Ospreay and Amazing Red. Where it's like, you knew Will was going through, but it was like a showcase for Amazing Red. That's what I feel like this is. This is like the big first round match. And it's like the coming out party for Leo Rush, again, in a major company that's not GCW. But I don't think he's winning it. But right. I think he's going to like impress, if that makes sense.
And then ELP being a heel, you could have him cheat to win, which protects Leo and kind of gives an excuse.
I think Leo's going to put him over clean. I mean, I think there'll be some cheating, but I don't think he's going to have to like pull the tights and, you know, hit him with a foreign object. Maybe he will. I don't know.
Well, remember, ELP was doing the whole like dick punch thing at one point too. So.
Oh yeah. I guess I'm kind of like forgetting how bad he cheated. Like you're probably right, but I mean, my whole thing is you look at this whole list of guys, and the only two real New Japan guys that are like clearly signed from, you know, and are exclusive are Clark Connors and El Phantasmo, and the only one that's got real tenure with big wins in big spots over in Japan is Phantasmo, and I'm guessing whoever wins this is in line for a big push, and they can do the whole story of like he went back to back year 1, year 2. He's 2-time Super J Cup winner,
right? Which
no one has ever done. So it's this big accolade. So I'm thinking Phantasmo goes through to the second round.
Yep. So yeah,
and that's like what are you more excited about, ACH TJP or Phantasmo Leo Rush?
I think I'm more excited about Phantasmo Leo Rush.
I think I am too, especially since I saw ACH TJP in AAW this year, which it was good, but it didn't blow me. I mean, it was very good, but it didn't blow me away. I think I agree with you.
So yeah, we got ELP going. So ELP will face Blake Christian according to our predictions. And so then with ACH and Bay, who you think would go through there?
I think it's very clear. I've got ACH going to the finals. I think ACH Chris Bay would be an awesome match to see. And you know what? I would like it to be ACH because TJP and Chris Bay are both in Impact together already. That kind of solidifies it for me, is like, we're going to get the fresh matchup in my opinion. So I think we're probably getting ACH going over Chris Bay in a very good match.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think ACH, especially if ACH history in New Japan's junior division, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to get to the finals here. So, yeah, ACH defeating Bay to go to the finals of the tournament. And then ELP and Christian, I think we're both in agreement that ELP will beat Blake Christian.
I think so. I'm still thinking there is a chance that Ray Horace beats Blake Christian. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to defer and say I think it will end up being Phantasmo and Ray Horace.
Okay.
Just because I think they need to give a little bit of something to Ring of Honor. Just throw him a little bone. Throw him a little lifeline.
The funny thing is, I don't think they've advertised Ray Horace as a Ring of Honor guy.
I thought they did. Am I wrong in that?
I don't remember them using the ROH logo. Maybe they did, and I'm just not remembering. But
I don't know. But like, I'm just gonna defer from you.
Well, either way, ELP's winning,
right?
Whether it's Horace or Christian, we're gonna get ELP versus ACH final.
Yeah, and that sounds incredible. ACH, we want to see more of him going forward. I think this is the right step in the right direction. I think him and Phantasmo sounds like an awesome final. And then I think Phantasmo is winning, and I think you think that too.
Yeah, I assume from day one, as soon as I saw the bracket, for all the reasons you listed earlier, I thought that's the reason why Phantasmo was winning.
Ren Narita and Carl Fredericks against Hikuleo and Kenta. I don't really have a prediction on that. The one thing I'm excited about is just seeing Ren Narita come back because we haven't seen him all year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the Bullet Club team's going to win because technically Ren Narita is still a young lion, so he'll eat the pinfall there.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I'm excited that he'll be back, and yeah, it'll be good to see. Hopefully we'll see him going forward on strong.
I am more excited for the Empty Arena America bastardized Super J Cup show than I am for the Nippon Budokan World Tag League Super Junior Combined Finals night.
That's pretty sad.
But you know what? On paper, those two finals combined actually do look really great. You know what? The undercard looks great.
Yeah.
The undercard looks awesome. And then I'm like, well, you'll get the tag league, which will be what it is, and then you'll get the really good junior main event. So that will probably be good.
Yeah, I think it'll end up being a good show.
I hope when this is all over, Phantasmo gets on the mic and talks some shit, and maybe we get like either we get a 3-way between him, Hiromu, and Ishimori, or we get night one him and Hiromu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Hiromu has to beat him to get to Taiji.
I don't like to think of it that way because now when you say it that way, it sounds like a double gold dash situation. I don't like to think of it in those terms. Let's just say it'd be cool that they fought.
So now moving on to NJPW Strong this past Friday. We had Road to Detonation. We had the continuing rivalry between the Regal Twins and DKC and Clark Connors continuing, with Sterling and Regal getting the win over the DKC. We had Alex Zane defeating Blake Christian, which I'm imagining is going to be one of his last
matches.
Strong appearances here, as he's now...
Do we have all those signings in the news, or should we talk about it right now?
I didn't put them in the news.
Alex Zane went to WWE, so fuck him. And Russ Taylor...
I think we mentioned it, though, last week. I don't know.
Russ Taylor is also with WWE now, so fuck him. No, I'm just playing. I'm just sad because... And also, it makes no sense. How's this going to play out? Because Russ Taylor just joined Team Filthy, and now, how's that work?
Yeah, well, he's on the next week's show, which I'll get to in a second here.
I guess I'll start watching NXT. I don't know.
In the main event of the show, they had the Josh Smith special, the elimination tag match here with Brody King, Finley, Juice, ACH, and Carl Fredericks, defeating the Bullet Club team of Kenta, Jay White, Tangaloa, Tama Tonga, and Hikuleo, with Brody King being the last to eliminate Kenta, which is going to set up one of the big matches for the Detonation 2-night tour that's coming up. So on Friday...
Funny thing, Alex Zane left this year. He's also one of our newcomers of the year. I think that's the first time we've ever had a newcomer leave in the same,
Yeah. So Friday, along with the Best Super Junior World Tag League Finals, will be night one of Detonation, which will feature the continuing rivalry of Clark Connors and DKC. They'll be tagging against the Regal Twins, Logan and Sterling. Then there'll be Finn Juice and Mysterioso against Tangaloa, Chase Owens, and Hikuleo. Then Tama Tonga will be facing ACH in semi-main, and the main event will be Switchblade Jay White versus the Alpha Wolf Carl Fredericks. And then on night 2, Friday, December 18th, you'll have Rocky Romero and Dane Limelight in a rematch. Jeff Cobb taking on Russ Taylor. And semi-main, PJ Black and Fred Rosser versus Tom Lawler and JR Kratos. And in the main event, we will have Kenta defending, once again, his right to challenge contract against Brody King.
Asai, well, one thing before you get these questions, I'm very excited for this emerging Empire versus Team Filthy feud that seems to be, occurring right now. Asai Yojimbo asked us, what are your thoughts on Kenta demanding the U.S. title? Is he rightfully annoyed at having defended the briefcase more times than Moxley has defended the U.S. belt as a 2-time champ? Also, Juice beat Kenta in the G1 and asked for a chance at the briefcase, but he never got his chance before World Tag League. Do you think he at least deserves to be first in line after Wrestle Kingdom if he isn't somehow in that title match?
Yeah, so also saw some funny interactions on Twitter with Kenta tweeting Renee Young, how much time do I have to defend this briefcase?
What did she say?
She tweeted a gif of John Moxley kissing a camera. So yeah, obviously there is.
She don't keep up with this shit.
Also, there's probably some.
She's probably listening.
I highly doubt that. Some kayfabe frustrations there of Kenta, having to defend the briefcase multiple times, just won the title. We've talked about it numerous times, and now we get a lot of questions on this. And it's coming to a point now where they just gotta make a decision. Either Tony Khan needs to play ball and let Mox defend on a special strong show, or they just need to strip Mox of the title and have Kenta have Kenta quote unquote cash in the briefcase for the title, or do some kind of matchup for Kenta versus somebody for the title.
I mean, yeah, man, I don't really know what to say because they got these rules in place about how long someone can hold a title and how often they have to defend, and they've alluded to it in press conferences. They talked about we're going to freeze the contracts for the time while we were shut down. But once we came back, they had declared that they were going to restart them. But then everyone was able to come back except for John. And now, he's not coming back for Wrestle Kingdom. Like you said, they just need to make a decision. It does suck that they put the title on the guy 2 times and almost no. I think he had 1 title defense, but basically no real title defenses. This is why I thought that Suzuki should just win the belt earlier this year. That would have made the most sense, but they didn't do the shit. Obviously, they didn't know that a pandemic was coming, but yeah, I mean, Kenta's defending this briefcase, and the briefcase don't mean shit. He could lose it at any time, and John Moxley's just chilling. It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I think they should just. I don't know. I think they should just. I don't know. Probably just strip him, and I don't want to say award the title to Kenta because that sounds shitty. Yeah. But I also don't want them to do a
tournament.
Another tournament, unless it was maybe they could do a title eliminator match. I don't know who. Let's just throw Sonata and Juice, and then the winner fights Kenta, something like that. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, they could do that. As far as his other question about Juice being next in line, obviously we've seen Juice kind of synonymous with the U.S. title and getting U.S. title shot. So it wouldn't surprise me, if Finn Juice doesn't win the tag titles, that Juice would end up back in that U.S. title picture.
Did he's held that title?
U.S. title?
I'm just playing. It seems like a really long time ago.
It does, yeah.
Viking Pain asked us, with Moxley out of Wrestle Kingdom 15 this year, where does that leave Kenta and his U.S. title shot? Perhaps a match for the vacant title at Wrestle Kingdom 15? And he also asked, do you guys think Tom Lawler will have a possible future with New Japan long term? I've been enjoying his work in Strong and would love to see him work with guys like Goto, Ishii, and Suzuki.
Yeah, as far as Kenta at the Dome, no idea. It seems like they're still hesitant to want to strip Moxley before Tokyo Dome. Maybe they do another contract defense and then strip him afterwards. I'm not sure.
Ditto. I mean, yeah. I pretty much agree with you. I don't have much more to add to that.
And then Tom Lawler, not sure what the future long-term is going to be. Obviously, New Japan, we've seen them kind of working with MLW a little bit here with them kind of back and forth using guys. And so maybe once, obviously they're starting to get more of the U.S. guys into Japan. So maybe that's something if MLW wants to kind of work more with New Japan to let Tom Lawler go on a tour there. I think that would be cool. But I think the possibilities are open.
Well, we talked about when they started this show, how much is it going to affect the kayfabe and the overall continuity of the regular product. And the reality is you could literally watch all of the Japanese stuff and ignore the American stuff, and it's like it never happened. It's basically Dragon Ball GT at this point.
Yeah.
It's fan fiction, bro. It really is like literally fan fiction. So they're not doing anything. Like there's no VTRs over in Japan.
Like Super J Cup was like the first mention.
This is the first real thing that's happened in America since February when they were doing the New Beginning in USA tour.
Yeah.
Like everything in between that, bullshit. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Actually, Kenta winning the briefcase.
Right, yeah, that's the other thing.
That's the one other thing. But they didn't like even explain how it happened. They were just like, he got this red briefcase, bro.
Oh, here's Kenta with the briefcase.
He's got it. But, you know, no one in Japan knows who Filthy Tom Lawler is because they haven't worked him into any VTRs. No one's mentioned him on promos. He's a non-entity. Once I see them introduce him to the storylines in some meaningful way, then I would believe he has a future. Right now, I just think he's a freelancer that is very good, that they just happen to be able to get dates on him, and you know and it's cool, and and it's fun, but it's Dragon Ball GT, you know. Super Saiyan 4 is not real.
Right. So Tom Waller is Super Saiyan 4 Goku.
Yeah, it's not real. He's child Goku.
So moving on, the big news for this week was mainly what was going on with the tournaments. We had the free match of the week, Best of Super Junior 4 finals, Koji Kanemoto versus El Samurai, which we reviewed during the final countdown. My man, Koji Kanemoto.
Do you remember what we ranked that out of the top 10 matches for all-time Super Junior finals?
I'm blanking right now.
It was our number 2 ranked match. That's high.
Yes, so go out of your way to watch that one if you haven't watched it yet.
If you haven't seen it, there's something wrong with you. You need to go watch this shit. It's awesome.
And you should go back and listen to our final countdown series.
Or we need to finish the final countdown. We got we've got the tape, and we haven't done the last.
There's been a lot to watch, man.
It's 2 matches. We got a free week this week. How about maybe we just do it this week?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
Or at least watch the shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, there's been reports of Tony Khan being in contact with our good friend Rocky Romero on potentials of New Japan and AEW working together, and with Harold May out of the picture, thinking it might be a little bit easier to work together.
Well, all I know is I've been hitting up Rocky talking about trying to work with New Japan, and nothing's come of it. So if Tony's in the same camp as me, nothing's gonna happen. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, I mean, hey, we've analyzed this to death. I'm open to it. If it doesn't happen, I really don't care. I'm fine either way.
We have a question here from Viking Payne. It says, first off, I just want to say there are 4 things that would survive a nuclear holocaust: cockroaches, Twinkies, Nokia 3310 cell phones, Impact Wrestling. Now, with that said, recently AEW has opened the forbidden window by partnering up with Impact, which is hilarious because AEW uses dual interest tunnels like TNA once did. But besides that, with recent news that Tony Khan is open to working with everyone and him reaching out to Rocky Romero regularly to try to build a bridge of New Japan, when do you guys expect to see Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Dr. Luther, Shaquille O'Neal, and the rest of the AEW roster on New Japan Strong?
Instead of answering this question directly, I will say this. We took a pause in the middle of this recording. You're not going to be able to tell when, but we took a little pause because we're recording this as TNA Impact or whatever the show is called.
Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, we jumped on Twitch, and we had it in the background. We saw Don Callis and Kenny Omega do their promo, and it was awesome, and I really loved it. And we saw where they did the interview with Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone on the rival television station, and it just reminded me of mid-'80s territory wrestling when national TV became a thing, and you would hear about you would see Jim Crockett alluding to what happened in Mid-South and vice versa, or it also kind of reminded me of when Vince McMahon showed up on USWA a little bit, had that kind of energy. the promo with Kenny and Don Callis was really cool. It reminded me quite a bit of when Ric Flair was doing the contract signing on the boat on, I think, Clash of the Champions, just prior to his Starrcade date with Lex Luger. So, I mean, a lot of old school influence. But I'm saying all that to say this. The fact that the wrestling world is open on that side and these two companies are really willing to work together in some capacity, and what it's going to turn into, I don't know. What it will or won't be remains to be seen. I would love it for more of that to happen in the wrestling world. If New Japan could be part of that, that would be very cool. I don't know if they will or won't. I'm not advocating for it, but could it happen? Absolutely. And I think a lot of, I think a lot of people who claim that they would hate it, maybe they would hate it, but I think the majority of people secretly deep down would actually really like it.
Yeah, I mean, being a fan of both promotions, I would be down for that. I think there's a lot of benefits that could come from both promotions working together, and if they do work together, I don't think it's going to be on a New Japan Strong capacity. I think once travel gets easier, you would see top AEW guys traveling to Japan, but also we don't know if that's going to happen, when that's going to happen, but I would be excited about that.
One thing in the past is I've talked about why would New Japan need this? They don't need it. They've already got the guys that have the open contracts, can come work for them, yada yada. I've also talked about the power structure, the A side versus the B side, and how that's an issue, and that's a real thing. But one thing that I kind of overlooked, I don't think you have. I'll take all the brunt on this. The buzz factor. I mean, it's very clear right now, New Japan's popularity in the West, and it's down. Their visibility is down. For news story of the year, when we do our year-end awards, we try not to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but this isn't the year-end awards episode, so I can kind of admonish you people. How dare you guys not fucking vote for New Japan losing their US TV deal as one of the news stories of the year? That's one of the biggest fucking news stories of the entire year. And it's got so little votes, but apparently a kayfabe storyline is a much bigger deal than them handling COVID or them losing their president or them losing their TV deal. Go figure, But Naito's awesome, right? Fuck. Anyways, them losing that TV deal was a huge deal as far as their visibility goes in the States. It would probably go a really long way. And I think I undervalued how impressive it would be for them to work with the second largest company in North America. I mean, it would help both companies immensely. I mean,
even what we saw tonight on Impact, well, even starting last week on Dynamite, they plugged people to watch Impact this coming up week. And then on Impact, they're plugging people to watch Dynamite. And we're seeing this synergy where they're plugging each other's stuff. So, them advertising New Japan World on TNT, they're getting between 800,000 and 1 million viewers a week. That's great exposure for New Japan World, and it gets some subscriptions there.
Yeah, and I think what they're doing with Impact and AEW so far, just in the 1 week it's happened, is very cool. Now, will it end up being great long term? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to see, but this is sort of like a soft run for what could potentially happen between New Japan and AEW if the two sides ever did decide to work together. And I think it would be advantageous for both of them. The one thing I will say, when multiple companies have worked together on a major level in the past, it has always failed. The second thing is, whoever the smaller company is, if there's ever a situation where there's a big company, a small company, it always fucks over the small company.
Right.
That's what history's told us. Will that play out the same way here? Maybe, maybe not. I hope not, because I think the intentions of everybody involved is to spread as much goodwill to try and expand the audiences of everyone involved. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine if New Japan never works with AEW, but I just think they don't know what they're doing in America very clearly.
Right.
And there's another company that does. And I know they wanted to expand to America, but like it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. So they might as well like work with someone who's in the big league. I don't know, man. Like it's not working with Ring of Honor. It's not working doing this strong shit. You know, your touring schedule sucked. Like you guys had the opportunity 2 years ago. You guys fucked it up.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Let's move on. We have a few other last questions here. First from our user Grunty Dodds. He says, NJPW Strong Superstar Brody King is challenging Roosh for the Ring of Honor title at Final Battle. Do you think he's going to take home the gold?
Probably. When's Final Battle? I didn't even know they were doing that.
Sometime at the end of this month. I don't know I forget.
Oh, that's right. That's their big show at the end of December. Yeah, I mean, probably. Let's do it. Brody King.
Yeah, I mean, Roosh has held onto the title for a while now.
Roosh sucks.
Yeah, I think especially with Brody kind of out with the whole Villain Enterprises thing.
Well, isn't like something going on with?
Apparently, there was a picture of Marty in a suit that's been going around the internet. People are saying that he's at Baltimore for the Final Battle, like tapings for the go home for that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's true or not. But Villain Enterprises is disbanded, so regardless, this would be a great opportunity for Brody King.
You know what's funny is like it'll probably fly completely under the radar because that whole speaking out was so long ago, and Ring of Honor is such a small company. No one really notices what happens over there anyways. It'll probably be fine.
I don't know. I feel because it's Marty and just because he was a member
big star
of the Elite, I think it's going to get a little bit more attention.
Okay. Well, we got a question here from Ablu3. Can you rank the current Young Lions in terms of potential? And do you think that Narita is going to be a Young Lion at the Super J Cup? And do you think Shingo has Evil at the Dome? So I'll start. In terms of potential, I mean, who are we ranking?
So we would be ranking Yumura, Tsuji, Connors, Fredericks, and Coughlin.
That's really hard. I'll go Yumura 1, Tsuji number 2. I mean, Gabe Kidd 3, Clark Connors 4, and Coughlin 5. And I guess that's their current standings in the company anyways. It sounds mean, but it's not because it's such a strong class. I mean, any one of those guys could go on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think I would go in that exact same order as well. Yeah, and all of them are great. So it's not really a knock on Coughlin being on the bottom there, but
the other question he had was, yeah, I think Narita's for sure going to be Young Lion at the Super J Cup because he's still on excursion. So I think that's a given. And I don't think Shingo has Evil at the Dome, just because they had Shingo on the world title, double title level, and I don't think they're ready to relegate him to never status. They very
Evil.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Evil. They very rarely relegate world champions down to the never status. So I think that him having Sonata at the Dome sounds more plausible.
I think that makes sense. You need something for Sonata. Coming off that G1 finals and not winning the World Tag League. So I think a Sonata Evil kind of clash makes a ton of sense to do with the Dome.
Dom Homie 101 asked us, where do you guys think Tanahashi, Kenta, Sonata, Evil, and Suzuki fit on the Wrestle Kingdom card this year? I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, Tanahashi at this point, hoping is just for something. It looks like maybe Great Okan. Kenta, no idea. Sonata, it seems like Sonata and Evil makes a lot of sense. Suzuki might be in that never 6-man gauntlet.
It's just it's like what I talked about earlier. When you do one thing, you do it to the detriment of another. When you're deciding on some things, you're always sacrificing other things, and you kind of have to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze. They decided to do World Tag League and Super Juniors in December, allowing them only 3 shows, and this is coming right off the heels of Power Struggle and G1. they only have 3 shows to really establish anything else for Wrestle Kingdom. We don't even have a full Wrestle Kingdom card, which I think by this time we at least have some semblance of a card. We don't really have that yet. There hasn't been a press conference.
Well, I mean, we got the big matches.
We have the 2 big matches, right?
So that we have Naito Ibushi, then the winner of Naito Ibushi facing Jay White on night 2, and then Okada Ospreay.
Okay, we got a couple. But normally, I think we have a pretty fleshed out card for the most part. I'm guessing they're waiting for the end of these 2 tournaments to figure things out and announce it. But it's like, it's very clear they got 2 nights to fill. They got a lot of stars here that he just listed, and we don't know what any of them are actually doing yet. We don't know what any of these 6 guys are doing, and I'm sure there's others that we could think of that we're like, I don't know what they're doing. We'll figure it out, I guess. It doesn't feel like the most cohesive, strongly booked Tokyo Dome the way that like the last couple years have felt. I mean, last year also felt a little discombobulated too.
Yeah.
He also, or did you have anything to add to that?
No.
It's that time again. What are the young boys' thoughts on Spence versus Garcia fight? What's the future of both fighters? What are Spence's chance against guys like Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Crawford, and Canelo? Also thoughts on Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul, and thoughts on De La Hoya trying to get a comeback fight against Triple G. So a lot going on in boxing. I'll be clear, Dom Homie 101. These days, I'm kind of following MMA more than boxing. For most of my life, I've kind of really stayed up on both of them. But in this COVID era, I just haven't watched a lot of empty arena boxing, to be honest with you, for whatever reason. And, you know, let's take a look at Spence. I mean, I've been waiting for Spence to fight Bud Crawford for too many years now, and that doesn't happen in MMA, and that's one of the big reasons I've kind of fallen out with it. It's like, why is he fighting Danny Garcia? Or did he fight Danny Garcia this year or this past fight? I think he did. But anyways, I didn't actually even see that fight. I planned to watch it. I saw, you know, all the reports that Garcia or that Spence just pretty much boxed his socks off, and you know, Garcia is probably too small for him anyways, probably should go back down to 140. But I think both guys have, I mean, Garcia's still a great fighter. Spence is the truth. A lot of people want to talk shit and say he's not. And let's also put in perspective, this guy's coming off of, you know, he almost died when he crashed his, what was it, Ferrari, Lamborghini, something like that. And like the fact he's still world champion and fighting at a world champion level is insane. I think he should fight Manny Pacquiao. I think he beats Manny Pacquiao pretty easily at this point. That might surprise some people, but I think Manny reminds me of like Roberto Duran or like Leonard in like 89. They're past it, but they're still big names and they're players, but he's pretty much done. And yeah, I know he beat oh God, I forget his name. Our boy from here in Clearwater, Thurman, but I actually thought Thurman beat Pacquiao in that fight anyways. But anyways, Terrence Crawford is a whole different beast altogether, and I think Canelo's much too big for him and too good. Terrence Crawford, I think he could be. I think if they fought a year or two ago, Terrence Crawford tears him apart. But the last couple times I saw Terrence fight, I saw Terrence getting hit with needless shots that he didn't need to take, and I think he's slowing down. And I think time might be – I'm not saying he's done, but I think Spence could probably get him out of there. Mayweather, Logan Paul, it's a freak show fight. I love freak show fights. I'm a big fan of the Pride era. But, I mean, I think it's criminal. Floyd, here's the one thing. Floyd is a safe guy, as safe as you could possibly be. He did – incredible business with Conor McGregor. And when I say business, I don't mean like they drew. I mean, they were literally working together. I mean, he took care of Conor McGregor and didn't hurt him needlessly. And I'm sure that's what would happen with Logan Paul. I think he gets Logan Paul out of there quick, just like he did to Tenshin over in Japan. Logan Paul is big, though. Much, much bigger than Floyd and very athletic. So I'm not even sure how they sanction this sort of shit. But Logan Paul, he could probably beat up your average guy on the street, could probably beat up me, most people, but he's not going to beat up Floyd Mayweather. So, I mean, I'm still going to watch it, but and De La Hoya's tripping. Like, I don't know what the fuck he thinks. I don't know why he thinks he could beat Triple G. I saw the statements. I think it's just a publicity grab. So that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah.
Nice. So let's close off here with the recommended match of the week. Last week, my recommended match was the Never Openweight Tournament Finals between Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Masato Tanaka, November 9th, 2012. Young boy, what did you think about this match?
This was a match I never saw before. It's a match that I enjoyed quite a bit. They did a lot of like lengthy brawling on the outside. Very interesting. I didn't recognize that arena that they're working in.
Me either.
Standing room only. There was no chairs. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Orpheum.
Similar to that, yeah. But who was the referee? Marty Asami or whatever his name is.
I don't remember who was refereeing.
All I know is he couldn't get control. He let those guys brawl on the outside forever. But once the match started going, it was pretty good. Where it really heated up was they had a table that was set up from earlier in the match, and Carl Anderson does a spike pile driver, essentially, or a similar move to spike pile driver through the table to the outside on Masato Tanaka. Somehow he tried to protect Tanaka, but somehow Tanaka's elbow got busted open, so he's bleeding everywhere. That's when the match really started heating up. A lot of teases of Anderson's gun stun, but Tanaka just keeps hitting him with roaring elbows and lariats, and these guys were just killing each other at the end. Really awesome sequences. And then eventually Tanaka just like hits him with a sliding elbow and pins him 1, 2, 3. And I wouldn't quite call this a strong style match, but there's definitely some allusions to that style. A lot more athletic than people would probably anticipate. Carl Anderson was just fucking awesome in 2012. This is the way I remember him, and I do recommend if you've never seen Carl Anderson work from like 2012, 2013 like period, you need to go back and rewatch those matches he's had. This one is this was good. I'd probably go like, I don't know, 3 3/4, 4 stars. It's not like for historical purpose, it's the first never openweight title match. It's a good match. It's short too, so I mean, I'd recommend it. But it's not like blow away, but it's very good. I mean, and it's Masato Tanaka. I mean, he always brings it. He's still like going at a top level in like what DDT right now, I think.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed this match quite a bit.
Nice. So what's the match for this week?
So earlier today, we were in the group chat and people were talking about All Japan and New Japan and Noah, and they're talking about King's Road, and they're talking about Strong Style, and I was like, all right, let's pull out an actual King's Road versus Strong Style match, and I decided to pick one that I just knew Jeremy would flip over. So August 1st, 1998, I checked, it is on New Japan World. Shinya Hashimoto versus Genichiro Tenryu. And these two guys, let me just say this. I think Tenryu is Hashimoto's best opponent ever. I don't think Hashimoto is his best opponent, but I think he's Hashimoto's best opponent ever. Multiple matches between these guys, I think like starting in 93 going up to like 99, 2000, never had less than like a near 4-star match or better. This is the best of them. And the one tagline I will give you guys, if you've never seen this match, before there was Ishii and Shibata, there was Tenryu and Hashimoto.
That sells it right there.
I am telling you, it is as hard hitting, or actually, you know what? It is more hard hitting than 95% of the matches in New Japan today.
Wow.
And I'm not shitting you when I say that. So you got to see this shit. Dave Meltzer gave it 4 3/4, by the way. It's not 4 3/4. I'm probably like 4.5 on it, but he gave it 4 3/4 at the time. And it's only 14 minutes.
Hey, sounds great to me. So
yeah.
Looking forward to checking that out. And that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of Keeping It Strong Style. Next week, we'll be back to review the World Tag League Best Super Junior and Super J Cup finals. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on that donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Be sure to connect with us on social media. The show is at KI Strong Style, the network at Social Suplex. I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. In the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Y'all just Keepin' It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. We have the Ricky and Clyde Wrestling Show from Scotland. We have the Grave Consequences podcast with Caleb and Maserati. The 8-Bit Suplex with Josh Number 2 and Sandy. We have All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And Great Match Generator with Danny and Beast Mike. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Get your votes in. Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.